Hey guys, tonight we're going to pull back the curtain of time further than ever before on this channel to answer a question that seems simple but is profoundly complex. What did a caveman actually eat in a single day? Imagine, we are standing not in a city or a town, but on a grassy mammoth steppe 40,000 years in the past. The air is thin, bitingly cold, and carries the scent of pine and damp earth. A herd of giant deer, their antlers like gnarled trees, graze in a valley below, their breath misting in the frigid air. There are no roads, no buildings, no sounds of engines, only the vast, intimidating silence of a planet that does not yet belong to us. But in the side of a limestone cliff, a thin curl of smoke betrays a presence. It's a rock shelter, and inside, a small clan of early modern humans is asleep. One of them is beginning to stir, and that person is you. Over thousands of generations, your ancestors have spread from Africa, adapting, innovating, and surviving against impossible odds. They have battled ice ages, hunted terrifying megafauna, and developed the complex social bonds and toolkits that have brought you to this very spot. So what is the first thing on this ancestor's mind upon waking? What knowledge must they possess to simply make it to sunset? And how on earth do you find breakfast when there are no grocery stores for 1,000 miles in any direction and 1,000 centuries into the future? Thanks to an incredible convergence of archaeology, genetics, and chemistry, tonight we can piece together the story of that day, moment by moment. Frankly, if you were dropped here in your pajamas, you wouldn't survive 10 minutes, let alone a full day. You'd probably try to pet something large and furry and immediately regret that decision. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. That small click sends a big signal to the algorithm. That long-form, serious, educational content still matters. And to me, it's an incredibly meaningful show of support. Thank you so much for helping keep this channel going strong. It always fascinates me to see where you're all tuning in from. Let me know in the comments where you are in the world and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your awakening is not gentle. It's not prompted by a soft sunrise or the chirping of birds, but by a deep, invasive cold that seems to be radiating directly from the center of your bones. The great fire, which roared and danced and held the darkness at bay all night, has died. Now it's just a heap of grey ash with a sullen orange heart that pulses weakly in the gloom. The warmth doesn't reach you anymore. You're lying on your side, and the cold is seeping up from the hard-packed earth beneath you, a constant, draining pressure. The air you breathe is heavy with the smells of this life. The sharp, mineral scent of damp limestone, the lingering ghost of yesterday's wood smoke, and the close, musky, animal smell of your family. Your clan. They are huddled all around you, a tangle of limbs and fur hides, sharing body heat in a silent, unconscious pact against the cold of the universe. But even before the cold, before your eyes are fully open, another sensation commands your attention. It's a hollow, aching emptiness deep in your gut. This isn't the polite, modern hunger that has you contemplating toast or cereal. This is an ancient biological imperative, a gnawing void that is both a physical pain and a primal command. It's the engine that will drive every thought and every action today. The question isn't what you'd like to eat. but if you will eat at all. You push yourself up on one elbow, the movement stiff and slow. The bed you're rising from isn't a crude pile of furs on the dirt. It's a surprisingly sophisticated piece of engineering, a technology of comfort refined over generations. Down at the Sibudu cave in what would one day be called South Africa, your distant cousins have been making beds like this for over 70,000 years. It's a mattress woven from compacted layers of sedges, rushes, and grasses. But the top layer is the clever part. It's made of the leaves of the river wild quince, a plant that contains natural chemical compounds that repel mosquitoes and other biting insects. It's a fragrant, functional, pest-controlled sleeping platform. You crawl silently past the sleeping forms of your kin toward the mouth of the shelter. Peering out, you see a world that is not yet awake. The landscape is bathed in a deep indigo light, the color of the sky just before the sun is a thought. A thick mist clings to the ground, swallowing the bases of the sparse, hardy trees and muffling all sound. The silence is profound, but not empty. You listen with an intensity a modern human can barely comprehend. Your ears sift through the quiet, cataloging the sounds. The distant, lonely cry of a nocturnal hunter heading back to its den. The faint, almost imperceptible rustle in the undergrowth that could be a hare or could be something far more dangerous. The soft, rhythmic breathing of your family behind you, a reassuring counterpoint to the tense quiet of the world outside. The entire landscape is a puzzle, and your survival depends on your ability to solve it day after day. This cave, this rock shelter, is the anchor of your existence. Archaeologists and anthropologists still debate the exact nature of these shelters. Were they permanent homes, a place of deep ancestral connection, or were they more like seasonal hunting camps, revisited year after year as the great herds of reindeer or bison passed on their ancient migratory routes? For you, the distinction is meaningless. It is simply home. It's the place where you are safe from the wind and the predators, the place where the fire lives. That fire. You glance back at its glowing heart. The control of fire was the single greatest tool your ancestors ever harnessed. It's so much more than a way to cook. Its warmth against the killing cold of this Pleistocene world. A climate that, as we know from scientific analysis of ice cores and ancient sediment layers, was fiercely volatile and often brutally colder than our own. The fire is a magical shield, a flickering wall that keeps the cave lions and hyenas at bay, their eyes gleaming from the darkness just beyond its reach. It's a social hub, the place stories are told and tools are made. It's the foundation of your world. And right now, it's dying. The cold and the hunger are winning. You rise to a kneeling position, and your body protests with a series of dull, familiar aches. A sharp twinge in your lower back from hauling a heavy load of firewood yesterday. A deep ache in your shoulder from that time you slipped on a wet rock and fell awkwardly. Your knees crackle like dry leaves. This is not the stiffness of a bad night's sleep on a soft mattress. It is the earned stiffness of a body that is used every single day as a tool for survival. Your body is a map of your life, with every scar, every old sprain, and every hardened callus a landmark in your personal history. You stretch, not for exercise, but to coax your muscles and joints back into service for the day ahead. The gnawing in your stomach urges you toward the back of the shelter, to a small, dry alcove in the rock that serves as your larder. There are no shelves here, no clay pots, no baskets overflowing with bounty. There is only a flat stone, and on it, the sum total of your clan's current wealth. It's a pathetic sight. There's a small, greasy bundle wrapped in broad leaves. You open it. Inside is a single strip of smoked meat, dark red and hard as wood. It was cut from the haunch of a deer 2 weeks ago, and the smoking has preserved it. But it's a food of last resort. Chewing it will be a day's work in itself. Beside it sits a small handful of shriveled black berries left over from last autumn's foraging. They are dry and tasteless, little more than seeds and skin. This is the reality of your pantry. Its state is a direct reflection of yesterday's luck. Today, it reflects a string of difficult days. The hunt failed, the foraging was sparse. Had yesterday been a good day, this alcove would look very different. It might hold the skull of a wild horse, waiting to be smashed open for the rich, fatty prize of the brain. There would be long bones, heavy and full of marrow, piled neatly. But there are no bones. There is no fresh meat. There is only this meager, depressing remnant. Your existence is a constant dance of opportunism. You eat what the land provides when it provides it. And what the land provides is wildly different depending on where you are. Your diet, here on this cold steppe, is just one version of the human menu. For all the pop culture images of mammoth-hunting cavemen, the Paleolithic diet was incredibly diverse, the original ultimate locavore lifestyle. Far to the south, along the warm coasts, your cousins are starting their day by wading into tidal pools to collect mussels and oysters. In the dense forests, they are gathering nuts and trapping birds. Your diet is a hyperlocal negotiation between your needs and the environment's whims, dictated by the rhythm of the seasons and the movement of the herds. You don't know this, of course, but the proof of this varied diet is being recorded inside your own mouth. The sticky film of plaque building up on your teeth. What scientists 40,000 years from now will call dental calculus is a microscopic time capsule. If they could place a sliver of it under a powerful microscope, they would find a library of your recent life. They'd find the tiny, resilient starch grains from the roasted cattail roots you ate last week. They'd see the microscopic plant fibers from the tough greens you chewed on yesterday, and the faint traces of muscle tissue from that last piece of deer meat. They can even find grains of pollen that tell them what season it was when you died. Your plaque is a silent, daily diary of your diet. In the dim light of the alcove, your eyes catch 2 other objects on the stone slab. They aren't food, but they are just as important for the day ahead. The first is a lump of reddish-brown clay, ground into a fine powder and mixed with animal fat to form a thick paste. It's ochre, a vital part of your culture for tens of thousands of years. You'll smear it on your skin today to protect you from the biting wind and the sun's glare. It's your sunscreen, your insect repellent, and your connection to your ancestors. Next to it is a small, black, shapeless lump. This is birch bark tar, one of the world's first synthetic materials. You might pop a piece in your mouth and chew it as you walk. It's an antiseptic gum that soothes aching teeth, but more importantly, it's your superglue. When warm and pliable, it will be used to attach a new stone point to a spear shaft or to waterproof a basket. It is a product of sophisticated chemistry, requiring you to heat the bark in the absence of oxygen, a process that still impresses modern chemists. Looking at the pathetic strip of jerky and the shriveled berries, the great question of your life reasserts itself. the same question that fuels a fierce debate among the scholars of the distant future. What is the true balance of your diet? A fierce debate rages on about the exact ratio of meat versus plants in the caveman diet. While popular culture and the dramatic evidence of a successful hunt might suggest you are a pure carnivore, a hunter of mammoths and nothing else, many researchers argue that this is a profound misunderstanding. They argue that the reliable day-in, day-out gathering of plants, tubers, nuts, and insects formed the vast, unsung majority of your caloric intake. The great hunt is the glorious exception. The humble gathered plant is the rule. The meat is the feast, but the plants are what get you from one feast to the next. Today, with the larder empty, you will need to rely on both. The day's great task is set. The void in your stomach must be filled. Behind you, the rest of the clan is beginning to stir, roused by the same primal motivators of cold and hunger. A child coughs, a dry, dusty sound in the quiet. Someone grunts as they turn over, pulling Auroch's hide tighter around their shoulders. There is no chorus of "good morning." The day is not yet good. It is a question waiting to be answered. The shared emptiness in everyone's stomachs is the only conversation necessary. As the bodies uncurl from their sleeping nests, the informal structure of your society reveals itself. There is the old woman, her face a beautiful, intricate map of wrinkles, each line a story of a drought, a hard winter, or a great feast. She is not a chief, not a queen in any sense you would understand. She holds no formal power. Her authority comes from a single, invaluable resource. She has survived more seasons than anyone else. Her mind is a living library of this land, which roots are sweetest after the first frost, where to find water when the creek runs dry, what the strange behavior of the birds signifies. Her wisdom is the clan's most vital tool. Then there are the hunters. 2 men, lean and sinewy, their bodies honed to a fine edge by a life of walking, running, and explosive bursts of lethal action. They move with a quiet, coiled energy, their eyes already focused on the distant landscape. And there are the other women, experts in their own right. Their domain is the vast, complex world of botany. They are the keepers of the knowledge of which plants heal, which nourish, and which kill. The old woman rises and shuffles to the mouth of the cave, the rest of the group watching her with quiet deference. She is the day's oracle. This is the Council of Hunger, and it is now in session. She doesn't consult a chart or an app. She reads the world itself. She lifts her face and sniffs the air, long and deep. Her nostrils, sensitive as a deer's, analyze the wind. Is it carrying the scent of rain? The telltale dusty smell of a large herd on the move? She studies the thin, wispy clouds catching the first hints of sun. She notes the direction of their drift. Her gaze follows a lone eagle soaring high above. Its flight path is a sentence in a language she has spent a lifetime learning. After a long, silent moment, she gives a slow, deliberate nod. The verdict is in. The air is dry. The wind is steady. It is a good day for tracking. It is a good day to hunt. With that single gesture, the group's purpose for the day crystallizes and it splinters into its functional parts. The 2 hunters move to check their spears, their movements economical and sure. A small party will travel far and fast today. The rest of the group, mostly the women and the older children who are strong enough to walk for miles, begins to gather their own equipment. Digging sticks, with points hardened to a stony toughness in the embers of a fire, are picked up. Baskets woven from reeds and bags made from animal bladders are slung over shoulders. They will be the foragers. Their task is less glamorous than the hunt, but it is the bedrock of your survival. This smooth, leaderless cooperation is a hallmark of your society. You live in what is likely a profoundly egalitarian world. The concept of accumulating wealth is nonsensical when you can only own what you can carry. Status is not inherited. It is earned through skill, proven over time. The best hunter is respected not because he is the boss, but because his expertise feeds the clan. The old woman is revered not for her power, but for her knowledge. Sharing is not a form of charity. It is the fundamental economic and social contract that binds you all together. My success today is your survival. Your success tomorrow is mine. This is proven deep within your very bones. If a scientist of the far future were to analyze your skeletons, they could use a technique called isotope analysis. By measuring the specific isotopes of carbon and nitrogen embedded in your bone collagen, they can tell precisely what you've been eating over the long term. The bones of the hunters would show high levels of nitrogen-15, the chemical signature of a top-level predator. The bones of the primary foragers might show a different signature, telling a story of a diet rich in plants. The bones of the whole clan would tell a single unified story. You are a group of specialists who survive by sharing. The planning continues, a silent ballet of intention. One hunter holds up his spear, its elegant stone point shaped like a willow leaf. He gestures towards the high ridges in the east, then makes a sign with his hands mimicking the large, curved horns of a giant elk. The message is perfectly clear, conveyed without a single word. I will take the elk spear. We hunt on the high ground today. This is communication stripped to its essence, a proto-language of shared experience that is as efficient as any spoken tongue. This natural division of labor is efficient, but it's not as simple as it looks. Historians still argue about the rigidity of gender roles in your time. While the dangerous, high-risk work of hunting large game was often a male-dominated activity, this doesn't tell the whole story. Evidence suggests women were active and accomplished hunters of small game, rabbits, birds, lizards, which they could catch while foraging. More importantly, it was the women's foraging that provided the steady, reliable stream of calories that fueled the entire clan. The hunters might come home empty-handed for days on end, but the foragers almost never would. In this sense, the women are the primary, and arguably the more essential, providers. The hunt provides the boom, but the gathering provides the baseline that prevents the bust. The council is over. 2 paths, 2 missions, 1 goal: to return at sunset with enough food to silence the ache in your bellies and to see another dawn. The decision is made. Now comes the preparation. You move to your personal space within the cave, a small area demarcated by nothing more than habit and mutual respect. Here, you keep your toolkit. It's not a box of shining metal. It is a small, carefully chosen collection of stone, bone, and wood, and it represents the accumulated technological wisdom of 1,000,000 years of your ancestors. You unroll a piece of soft hide and lay your tools out upon it. Each one is as familiar to you as your own hand. There is your hand axe, a beautiful teardrop-shaped piece of flint. Its heavy, rounded base fits perfectly in your palm, while its other end tapers to a sharp, robust edge. This single tool is the Swiss Army knife of your world, a design of such genius and utility that your ancestors, the Aeolians, used it for well over 1,000,000 years. It can butcher a carcass, chop wood, dig for roots, and serve as a formidable weapon in a pinch. Next to it is a collection of smaller flint flakes, each one a specialized blade. One, long and thin, is your filleting knife. Another, with a serrated edge, is for sawing through tough sinew. And then there are the scrapers, with rounded, durable edges, essential for cleaning animal hides. Finally, you lay out a slender, sharp-pointed bone awl, which you'll use to punch holes in leather for sewing. This is your inheritance, a portable, powerful set of solutions to the problems of survival. But these tools are only as good as their edges. Maintenance isn't a chore you do on a rainy day. It is a constant, daily necessity, as vital as drinking water. You notice the primary cutting edge on your hand axe is slightly dulled from yesterday's work. You select a smooth, heavy river cobble to serve as your hammerstone, and a smaller, pointed piece of deer antler for fine, detailed work. You settle yourself comfortably, placing the hand axe on your thigh, which is protected by a thick leather pad. Then the work begins. It's a process of focused, intelligent violence. With a sharp, practiced flick of your wrist, you strike the edge of the flint with your hammerstone. Clack! A small, useless flake flies off. You adjust your angle slightly. Clack! This time, a larger, thinner flake shears away, taking the dull section with it and leaving a fresh, sharp scar in its place. The sound is sharp and satisfying. You are a sculptor, and your medium is stone. For the finer work, you use the antler tip, placing it precisely on the edge and striking it to press off tiny, razor-sharp flakes, refining the edge to a surgical keenness. You run your thumb gently over the newly napped surface, not across the edge, which could slice you to the bone, but alongside it. You feel its microscopic history, a story that scientists in a far distant future will learn to read. Using powerful microscopes, they will practice a science called use-wear analysis, studying the infinitesimal scratches, fractures, and polishes on tools like this one. They will see that the bright, glossy polish on one section comes from scraping hides, while the tiny striations and nicks on another are the unmistakable signature of butchering meat. Your tool tells the story of its own life, a life of work. While you tend to your personal gear, the others do the same. The hunters are examining their long wooden spears. One of the spear points, a beautifully crafted stone blade, is slightly loose in its hafting. The hunter takes a small piece of that black, sticky birch bark tar you keep in the larder. He gently warms it by the embers of the fire until it softens into a pliable black putty. He then forces this incredible prehistoric glue deep into the socket around the stone point. As it cools, it will harden, locking the point to the shaft with a bond that is both incredibly strong and slightly flexible, able to absorb the shock of impact. It's a moment of casual, expert chemistry, a craft passed down through generations. You, as part of the foraging group, have different primary tools. You pick up your digging stick. It's a simple object, just a long, stout branch of a hardwood tree, with one end scraped to a point, and then hardened in the fire until it's almost as tough as stone. The tip is worn smooth and polished from countless hours of plunging into the earth. It feels light and balanced in your hand. You also grab a large bag, expertly stitched together from the stomach of a giant deer, its opening cinched with a leather cord. It's light, waterproof, and can hold a surprising amount. As you finish your preparations, your gaze falls upon a hand axe lying near the old woman. It's a masterpiece. The flint is a deep, lustrous red, and its shape is perfectly, flawlessly symmetrical. It shows little sign of use. It is far more refined than it needs to be for purely practical purposes. This single object is the heart of a great mystery, a question that sparks endless discussion. Experts are divided on whether some finely crafted stone tools had a purely utilitarian purpose, or also held symbolic or ritualistic value. Is that perfect axe just a tool? Or is it something more? Is it a work of art, an object of beauty for its own sake? Is it a status symbol, a demonstration of the knapper's peerless skill, a way of showing their value to the group? Or does it have a spiritual dimension, an object used in rituals you can't even imagine? You don't have the words for these concepts, but you feel it. You feel the power in that beautiful, lethal object. The preparations are complete. The tools are ready. The clan is ready. With your tools in hand and your purpose set, you step out from the mouth of the rock shelter, leaving the familiar gloom behind. The change is immediate and absolute. The sun is just now breaching the distant horizon, a sliver of blinding white gold that ignites the edges of the clouds. The pre-dawn indigo has vanished, and the world is transforming, as if a painter is washing color across a monochrome sketch. The frost on the coarse grasses glitters with a million tiny points of light. The muted greens of the hardy pines and the deep, rich browns of the damp earth emerge from the grayness. You take a deep breath, and the air is so cold and clean, it feels like a physical substance in your lungs, a sharp, vital shock that awakens every nerve. Your first destination is not a hunting ground or a patch of edible plants. The body has a more urgent need. Led by the old woman, your small foraging party makes its way down a well-worn path toward a steady gurgling sound. A small, clear stream, born from a spring deep within the hills, tumbles over smooth, moss-covered stones. This ribbon of moving water is the lifeblood of this place. Its presence is the non-negotiable reason your clan has made its home here. For your people, and for the animals you hunt, access to a reliable source of fresh water dictates everything. It is the anchor point around which all migratory routes, all hunting grounds, and all temporary camps are planned. You kneel on the damp, sandy bank, laying your digging stick beside you. You cup your hands together, dip them into the current, and lift the water to your lips. It is shockingly cold, so cold it makes your teeth ache, but it is the purest thing you have ever tasted. It tastes of the deep earth it came from, of minerals and wet stone and the clean scent of moss. You drink deeply, silencing the thirst that woke with you this morning. This simple act, drinking clean, cold water from your hands, is a moment of profound, simple pleasure, a luxury you don't even recognize as such. Once your thirst is slaked, the second purpose of this visit begins. The soft mud and sand along the stream's edge is a public record, a newspaper of the night's events, and you are an expert at reading it. Your eyes scan the ground, deciphering the calligraphy of tracks left behind. You see the delicate cloven hoof prints of a deer that came to drink just before dawn. Good. They are in the area. A little further on, you spot something else that makes you pause. A single, huge, 5-toed print, pressed deep into the mud, its claw marks clearly visible. A cave bear. It was here during the night, a silent, heavy presence moving through the darkness. You give the thickets on the far side of the stream a wide, respectful berth. The waterhole is an intersection, a place of immense opportunity and immense danger, and you must be aware of everyone who visits. Your gaze continues to scan the ground. Near a dense patch of reeds, you notice some dry, pellet-like droppings. To you, they are a simple sign that a rabbit was here. To a scientist in the distant future, a dropping like this, if it were to fossilize, would be a treasure. They would call it a coprolite, and it provides the most direct and undeniable window into an ancient diet. By dissecting and chemically analyzing these fossilized feces, scientists can discover exactly what was eaten. They can find tiny digested fragments of bone, the husks of seeds, the tough exoskeletons of insects, and even the eggs of intestinal parasites, painting a picture of an ecosystem and a diet with a level of detail that bones alone never could. You uncinch the deer stomach bag at your hip to fill it with water for the journey. Before you dip it into the stream, you reach into a small leather pouch and take out a pinch of black, crumbly charcoal from last night's fire. You drop the fragments into the water skin before filling it. You don't know the chemistry. You have no concept of carbon filters or adsorption, but you know the tradition, passed down through generations. You know that water carried with a piece of charcoal simply tastes better and seems to sit more easily in the stomach. It's a small piece of practical magic that makes the day's journey more pleasant. Having drunk your fill and gathered the day's first intelligence, you feel the water rehydrate your system. But how much do you truly need? It's a question that sparks scientific curiosity. Paleoanthropologists debate how much water early humans needed to drink. On one hand, a diet heavy in animal protein, like the one your hunters pursue, is notoriously dehydrating, as the body requires a lot of water to process the nitrogen waste. This would suggest a constant, pressing need for water, tethering you to sources like this stream. Yet other scholars argue that your body, honed by millennia of evolution in often arid environments, may have been far more efficient at conserving water than modern humans, able to get more out of every drop. Your actual needs are a mystery, a piece of your physiology lost to time. For now, you know only this. You were thirsty, and now you are not. The first task of the day is complete. Now the search for food begins in earnest. Water skins full and thirsts quenched, your group turns away from the stream. The two hunters have already vanished, melting into the landscape as silently as shadows, their path taking them towards the high, windy ridges. Your path leads the other way, into the lower, more sheltered woodlands and meadows. Your foraging party moves out, falling into a steady, practiced rhythm. The pace is not rushed. It is an energy-efficient gait that can be maintained for hours. Your head is on a constant, gentle swivel, your eyes scanning not just the ground ahead of you, but the middle distance, the bases of trees, the undersides of fallen logs, the sky above. Every member of the group moves with this same deep, perpetual awareness. It's a 360-degree consciousness, a state of being entirely present in your environment. You are walking through a world without roads, yet you are not lost. You navigate by an intricate map that exists only in your mind, a three-dimensional model of this territory built from years of experience and stories told by your elders. Your landmarks are not signs, but features of the earth itself. There is the ancient lightning-scarred pine that stands alone on a hilltop, a dark sentinel visible for miles. You know that just beyond it lies a south-facing slope where the sweetest berries grow. There is the rock outcropping shaped like the profile of a sleeping giant. You know its crevices are home to rock doves. You navigate by the bend of the stream you just left, by the subtle shift in the vegetation that tells you the soil is getting marshy, by the position of the sun. This internal map is one of your most critical survival tools. As you walk, You are engaged in a constant, silent conversation with the world around you. You are reading a language you have known since birth, the green language of the plants. To an outsider, this landscape is a monotonous, undifferentiated sea of vegetation. To you, it is a library, every leaf a page, every branch a sentence. You see a plant with broad, arrow-shaped leaves, and know that its roots are starchy and nutritious, but only after they have been cooked to break down their toxins. You see a cluster of bright red berries that look juicy and delicious, but you pass them by without a second glance. You know them to be the fruit of the trickster, a plant that offers a quick and agonizing death. Your eyes catch the faint, lacy pattern of a specific fern, and you know that if you follow its spread, you are likely to find the damp, shaded earth where a certain type of edible mushroom grows. The curl of a leaf, the texture of a stem, the time of year, the specific location, all are grammatical elements in this language of life and death. This methodical, knowledgeable search is the true foundation of your existence. The hunter's quest is a glorious, high-stakes gamble. A successful kill means feasting, a wealth of fat and protein that will transform the clan's fortunes for days. But the hunt is fraught with danger and a high probability of failure. The animals are smart, fast, and powerful. The hunters may come home empty-handed and exhausted. But this, what you are doing now, is the daily bread. The quiet, patient gathering of roots, greens, nuts, and berries is the bedrock of survival. Foraging provides the reliable, consistent flow of calories that fuels the hunters on their quest, and keeps the clan alive between those glorious, infrequent feasts. You are walking through a garden that scientists of the future will painstakingly reconstruct. They will call their science paleobotany. By drilling deep into the mud at the bottom of ancient lakes and analyzing the layers of sediment on your own cave floor, they can find microscopic grains of fossilized pollen and the carbonized remains of seeds. Each layer is a snapshot in time. The pollen tells them that the pines and birches you see are the dominant trees, but that there are also patches of oak and hazel in the warmer valleys. The seeds confirm that the wild grasses and berry bushes you seek were indeed part of this world. These tiny, resilient fragments of the past allow them to rebuild this lost landscape, to know exactly what was on your menu. As you pass a particularly robust-looking patch of berry bushes, the old woman pauses. She uses her digging stick to methodically pry up and remove several of the more aggressive, thorny weeds that are crowding the base of the bushes. It's a small, simple act. She isn't farming. She is merely editing the landscape. This is a practice that future anthropologists will call proto-agriculture, a subtle but active management of the wild. Later, when you dig up a patch of tubers, you will be careful to leave a few of the smaller ones in the ground, and to replant the leafy top of the plant, ensuring that the patch will be there for you to harvest again next season. It is a partnership, a quiet understanding that you must give back to the land that sustains you. The depth of this shared knowledge is immense, but is it shared equally? Scholars argue about the extent of this botanical knowledge. Was it a generalist understanding, with every adult member of the clan possessing a roughly equal and comprehensive grasp of the local flora? Or did a more specialized system exist? Perhaps while everyone knew the basics, the 20 or 30 most common edible plants, it was specific individuals, like the old woman, who acted as the clan's specialists. She might hold a more encyclopedic, almost shamanic knowledge of the hundreds of other plants, the rare ones, the ones whose uses were medicinal rather than caloric, the ones that could soothe a fever, stop bleeding, or perhaps even induce visions? The answer is buried with her. But as you watch her tend to the berry bush, you know her knowledge runs deeper than anyone's. Your eyes, meanwhile, are scanning the ground, searching for the first true sign of today's meal. For an hour, you walk and scan, your mind and eyes working in perfect harmony. The landscape is a constant stream of information to be processed, mostly useless, but you sift through it patiently, looking for a signal in the noise. And then, you see it. Your eyes lock onto a thin, unassuming vine with hairy stems and small, distinctive three-lobed leaves snaking its way through a patch of coarse grass. To anyone else, it's a weed. To you, it is a promise. It is a signpost written in the green language, and it points downwards to a treasure buried in the earth. You've found what you are looking for. You signal to the others with a quiet gesture, and the group pauses. This is the first significant find of the day. You shrug the deer stomach bag from your shoulder and place it on the ground, then take a firm grip on your fire-hardened digging stick. You jab the point into the earth near the base of the vine. The ground is hard, a dense web of other roots and embedded stones. This is not gardening in soft, tilled soil. This is excavation. You drive the stick into the ground with your full body weight, your shoulder muscles bunching with the effort. You grunt as you lever the stick back, and a clod of compacted earth breaks free. You toss it aside and repeat the process. Jab, pry heave. Within minutes, you feel a film of sweat on your brow despite the morning's chill. This is the economy of energy in its most raw form. You are spending calories to gain calories, and you must ensure the transaction is profitable. The tip of your stick scrapes against a rock with a grating sound, and you have to change your angle, working around the obstruction. It's a slow, grueling, frustrating process. A battle fought with a simple tool and sheer persistence. Finally, you feel a different kind of resistance through the wood, not the hard stop of a rock, but a solid, yielding thud. You've found it. You abandon the brute force of the stick and go to your knees, using your hands to carefully scoop away the loosened dirt. Your fingers, calloused and strong, are sensitive instruments, feeling your way through the soil. You uncover the top of the prize, a lumpy, brown-skinned object. You work your way around its edges, freeing it from the surrounding roots and stones until, with a final pull, the entire cluster comes free from the earth. You hold it in your hands. It's a cluster of tubers about the size of your two fists put together. They are ugly things, caked in dirt, misshapen, and covered in a network of fibrous rootlets. They look nothing like the clean, uniform vegetables of a future supermarket. But to you, they are beautiful. They are a dense package of life-sustaining energy. Raw, they would be almost inedible, a mouthful of tough, stringy fiber with a bitter taste. But you know the secret. You know that the magic of fire will transform them. Roasted in hot embers, their starches will break down into sugars, turning them soft, sweet, and easy to digest. They are potential energy, a promise of a full belly. You knock the worst of the dirt off against your thigh and place the heavy, solid prize into your bag. The bag is no longer empty. This is the first deposit in the day's bank. These humble, starchy tubers and roots are the very foundation of your energy budget. While the hunters seek the fat and protein needed for building strong bodies, these underground storage organs, or USOS as scientists call them, are the crucial source of carbohydrates. They are the fuel that powers the human engine, providing the raw energy needed for a life of constant movement. What you've just unearthed is the Paleolithic equivalent of a plate of pasta, the slow-release energy that will get you through the day and fuel the hunt itself. The proof of this starchy diet is as microscopic as it is undeniable. If you were to scrape the edge of your flint cutting tool after slicing one of these tubers, it would become coated in a fine white powder. These are starch granules. They are incredibly durable, and under a microscope, their size and shape are as unique as a fingerprint, allowing scientists to identify the exact plant species they came from. These tiny granules are found everywhere in the archaeological record, stuck in the microscopic crevices of stone grinding tools, and as you know, trapped in the calculus on your own teeth, providing a direct link between this very tuber and the diet of your ancestors. Before you move on, there's one more step. You know that this particular tuber, while nutritious, carries a mild toxin in its skin that can cause stomach cramps. It needs to be processed. Using a sharp flint flake, you deftly peel away the outer layer, the tough, dirty skin falling away in strips. You will carry the peeled tubers back to the stream you visited earlier and give them a thorough washing and soaking before the long walk back to camp. This is a crucial cognitive leap. It is not enough to simply find food. You have to possess the multi-stage knowledge required to make it safe and palatable. This very act, transforming a tough, toxic root into a high-energy meal, may be one of the keys to what makes you human. It is the central idea of a fascinating scholarly debate surrounding the expensive tissue hypothesis. This theory suggests that the crucial turning point in human evolution was the shift to high-quality, easily digestible foods, like cooked meat and cooked tubers. Our primate ancestors had enormous digestive tracts to slowly ferment tough, raw plant matter. But as we learned to cook, our food became pre-digested. We no longer needed such a large, energy-hungry gut. The hypothesis proposes that this saved metabolic energy was rerouted to a different, even more expensive tissue: the brain. As our guts shrank, our brains grew. The exact balance of which food, meat or cooked starches like this one, was the primary driver for this incredible change is still hotly debated. But as you drop the heavy tubers into your bag, you feel the simple truth of the exchange. You have just secured the fuel that makes everything else possible. With the heavy, reassuring weight of the tubers now in your bag, the foraging party moves on. The success of the first find has lifted the mood, replacing the sharp edge of hunger with a more focused sense of purpose. You follow the path of a dry game trail, your eyes once again scanning the endless tapestry of green and brown. Then you see it. A splash of vivid color in a sun-drenched clearing ahead. It's a dense thicket of bushes, low to the ground, and they are heavy with clusters of small, dark, almost black berries. It's a windfall, a gift from the season. A moment of pure, uncomplicated pleasure is at hand. You approach the thicket with a quiet joy. These are not the promise of future energy like the tubers, which require hard work and the magic of fire. These are an immediate reward. You know these berries intimately. Your mother showed you them when you were a small child, guiding your hand and teaching you their specific shape and the look of their leaves. You reach out, your fingers gently pinching a plump, perfect berry from its stem. It's cool to the touch and glistens in the sunlight. You pop it into your mouth. The sensation is an explosion of taste, a burst of intense sweetness, followed by a sharp, tangy note that makes your mouth water. The juice is a welcome, hydrating balm. In a world where your diet largely consists of fibrous plants and savory, often tough, meat, this pure, unadulterated sweetness is a rare and treasured experience. It's a direct hit of sugar, a quick jolt of energy to your brain and muscles. You and the others gather around the bushes, picking and eating, the silence broken only by the soft sounds of contentment. But this is a cautious feast. You eat your fill for the moment, but you do not gorge. Your ancestral knowledge, born from painful experience, contains a clear warning. Too much of this sweet gift at once will lead to a sour, cramped stomach later. It's a lesson in moderation, taught by nature itself. You quickly realize you are not the only ones enjoying this bounty. A flock of small birds, their feathers iridescent in the sun, flutters and chirps angrily from the higher branches, annoyed at your intrusion. They dart in and out, snatching berries, their frantic energy a testament to the treasure this patch represents. The air hums with the buzz of bees and other insects, all drawn to the sugary feast. Then you see a more ominous sign. Near the base of the thicket lies a fresh pile of scat, dark and lumpy, and filled with the telltale seeds of the berries. Next to it, a thick branch on one of the bushes has been snapped cleanly in two, the work of a large, powerful animal. The cave bear whose tracks you saw at the stream this morning has been here. It was enjoying this very same snack, perhaps only an hour ago. The knowledge settles in your gut, a cold counterpoint to the sweetness in your mouth. You are just one more hungry creature in this landscape, sharing a meal with the birds and the bears. You are part of the food chain, and not always at the top. While these berries provide a welcome burst of energy, their true value is invisible to you. They are not a major source of calories, but they are packed with micronutrients that your body craves. They are one of your primary sources of vitamin C, an essential compound you need to maintain healthy tissues and a strong immune system. A diet of only cooked meat and starchy roots, especially during the long winters, could easily lead to deficiency diseases like scurvy, a horrific ailment of bleeding gums, weakened bones, and eventual death. These small, sweet berries are your medicine, protecting you from a disease you have no name for. The physical act of eating these berries is also leaving its mark on you. The gritty tubers you dug up earlier will, over a lifetime, leave a pattern of coarse, linear scratches on the enamel of your teeth. But these soft fruits will leave a different signature entirely. They will polish your teeth, creating a surface with smaller, finer pits. In the distant future, scientists using powerful microscopes for dental microwear analysis can read these patterns like a book. The microscopic textures on your teeth tell the story of the texture of your food, corroborating the other evidence and proving that your diet was a complex mix of both hard, gritty foods and soft, gentle ones. Your knowledge of fruit extends beyond the immediately edible. A few paces away stands a gnarled, twisted tree bearing a sparse crop of small, green, apple-like fruits. You pick one and take a tentative bite. The taste is appallingly sour, an intensely astringent blast that makes your entire face pucker. It is completely inedible. Yet you gather a handful of them and place them carefully in your bag. You are playing a long game. You know a secret about this fruit, a piece of sophisticated food processing knowledge. If you store these hard, sour fruits in a cool, dark place for several weeks, a slow rot will begin. The cell walls will break down, the tannins will mellow, and the starches will convert to sugars. This process, which will one day be called bletting, will transform the inedible into a delicious, sweet, mushy treat. A welcome source of sugar deep into the colder months. This deep, nuanced knowledge of the plant world begs a fundamental question. How did you learn it? How did you first know that these dark berries were safe, while the almost identical red berries on the next bush were deadly? Anthropologists debate whether this knowledge was gained purely by brutal trial and error, a grim process where a clan would learn from the fatal poisoning of one of its own members, or if a more subtle strategy was at play. Perhaps you learned by observing other animals. You watched which fruits the clever, cautious monkeys and the birds ate, and which they avoided. Their survival acted as your guide, a way to filter the landscape's lethal possibilities before you ever had to risk it yourself. The answer is likely a combination of both, a slow accumulation of knowledge, paid for in both careful observation and tragic mistakes, that is now your inheritance. You scoop one last handful of the sweet, dark berries for the journey, and move on. The quick sweetness of the berries fades from your tongue, but the jolt of energy remains, sharpening your senses. Your foraging party continues its journey, moving into a damper, more densely wooded area where the air is thick with the rich, loamy smell of decay and new growth. Your path is blocked by a massive fallen tree, its trunk thicker than your body, its bark peeling away in ragged sheets and cushioned with a thick blanket of emerald green moss. It fell long ago, perhaps in a great storm before you were born, and the forest is now in the slow, patient process of reclaiming it. For you, this obstacle is also an opportunity. It is a locked pantry, and you have the key. You and another forager find a secure hold on the rough bark and plant your feet. With a shared grunt of effort, you put your backs into it, rolling the immense weight of the log just enough. As it moves, the dark, damp earth beneath it is exposed to the light for the first time in years, and the sight is a revelation. The entire underside of the log and the soil it rested on is a writhing, teeming metropolis of life. Fat, pale, C-shaped grubs, thick as your thumb, pulse and squirm in the sudden light. Beetles scurry for new cover. A centipede, a river of legs, flows into a crack in the wood. From your 21st century chair, the sight is nauseating, a visceral trigger for a deeply conditioned sense of revulsion. But you are not in the 21st century. You are here, now, and for you, this is not disgusting. This is a gift. This is a jackpot. Your eyes widen with the same delight you would feel upon finding a deer caught in a thicket. What you are looking at is one of the most perfect foods imaginable. Pure, high-quality protein and rich, energy-dense fat, conveniently packaged in bite-sized units with no dangerous horns, no hooves, and no teeth. They cannot run away. The harvest is laughably easy. Without a moment's hesitation, you kneel and begin scooping them up by the handful, their soft, segmented bodies cool and smooth against your palm. You brush off the loose dirt and drop them into a large, waxy leaf you've picked for this purpose. You work quickly and efficiently, gathering the unexpected bounty. You pause, pick up one of the plumpest grubs, and pop it into your mouth. There's a slight pop as you bite down, and then a creamy, surprisingly savory flavor fills your mouth. It's a taste that modern humans, in their sterilized world, have forgotten. But for you, it is the familiar, pleasant, and slightly nutty taste of pure nourishment. You eat a few more, a quick injection of protein to fuel your work, and then carefully fold the leaf around the rest of the harvest, tying it shut with a blade of tough grass. This bundle will be brought back to the camp. Roasted over the coals of the fire, the grubs' skin will become crisp and golden, and their flavor will deepen, becoming even more delicious. They will be a treasured part of the evening meal. This act, which seems so strange to the modern palate, is one of the most normal and widespread human behaviors. The practice, known formally as entomophagy, is not the desperate act of a starving person. For most of human history and prehistory, insects were a dietary staple, an abundant, predictable, and incredibly nutritious food source. It is only in the very recent past that Western cultures have developed a peculiar taboo against it, cutting themselves off from one of the most sustainable and valuable food groups on the planet. Direct evidence for insect consumption is hard for archaeologists to find. The soft bodies and delicate exoskeletons of insects don't preserve well over tens of thousands of years, but the indirect evidence is compelling. Chemical analysis of coprolites, your fossilized feces, can reveal the molecular signatures of the proteins and fats unique to insects. Furthermore, scientists have analyzed the unique microscopic wear patterns on small, pointed bone tools found at ancient human sites. These patterns are inconsistent with butchering or scraping hides, but they are a perfect match for the kind of wear you'd get from repeatedly digging into the hard-packed earth of a termite mound or prying larvae out of wood. The grubs under this log are a wonderful snack, but you know they are just one small part of a much larger menu. Your memory holds the story of greater windfalls. You remember a summer, 2 years ago, when the sky was filled with a clicking, humming cloud that blocked out the sun. A swarm of locusts. To an agricultural people, this would be a plague, a catastrophe. To you, it was a feast. The entire clan spent days catching the insects, stuffing themselves until they could eat no more, and then smoking the vast excess over the fire, creating a store of crunchy, protein-rich food that lasted for weeks. On other years, a seasonal migration of bogong moths would see the sides of certain mountains become so thick with the sleeping insects that they looked like a single shimmering pelt. This wasn't scavenging, it was harvesting on a massive scale. This is why some researchers argue that insects and other small package foods were the true daily drivers of human nutrition. The popular imagination, and even much of early archaeology, is fixated on the image of man the great hunter, the heroic figure bringing down a mammoth. But this fixation might be a modern bias, a projection of our own values onto the past. It overlooks the critical, less glamorous, but far more reliable contributions of this kind of foraging. The patient, knowledgeable gathering of plants, shellfish, lizards, and insects like these grubs was the foundation. These small, reliable packets of nutrients were the real fuel of the Paleolithic, the daily deposits that kept the human engine running. The great hunt was the lottery win. This is the daily wage. You tuck the precious wriggling bundle into your bag, next to the tubers and the sour fruits. Your harvest is becoming more diverse, more complete. Tucking the leaf-wrapped bundle of grubs securely into your bag, your party moves out of the deep woods. The landscape opens up, sloping gently downwards, and a new sound begins to fill the air, the soft, persistent murmur of moving water. Your path converges with the bank of a wide, slow-moving river. The air is immediately cooler here, and heavy with a new set of smells. The clean scent of the water itself, the rich, almost soupy aroma of decaying reeds and wet earth, and the faint, fishy tang of aquatic life. This is another world, another pantry, offering an entirely different menu from the one you found in the forest. The muddy banks are a treasure trove for the observant eye. Your gaze is immediately drawn to a slight movement near the water's edge. A mottled green frog, perfectly still, sits half hidden by a clump of grass, its throat pulsing gently. You freeze. Your movements become slow, deliberate, predator smooth. You take 2 silent steps, your weight balanced. Then your hand darts out with the speed of a striking snake. You snatch the frog, your fingers closing around its cool, slippery body. It's a small prize, but it's an effortless one. This is the essence of foraging, taking the easy gifts the world offers. The frog is dispatched quickly and respectfully, and placed in your bag. A little further on, the old woman points with her chin towards a patch of broad-leafed plants growing in a marshy inlet. You wade into the ankle-deep water and turn over the leaves. The undersides are dotted with dozens of small, spiral-shelled freshwater snails, clinging tightly to the waxy surface. You gather them by the handful, another easy, accessible source of protein to be steamed or roasted later. The real prize, however, swims just out of reach. In a shallow, sunlit eddy, you can see the dark shapes of fish, their tails fanning gently as they hold their place in the current. But they are wary and impossibly fast. You don't have hooks or nets. Catching them requires ingenuity. You take your fire-hardened digging stick, which can now double as a rudimentary fishing spear, and wade slowly into the cool water. The river pushes against your legs, a steady, living force. You stand motionless for long minutes, your eyes scanning the water's surface, waiting for a fish to drift within range. It's a game of patience, a contest between your stillness and the fish's caution. A dark shape glides closer. You tense, your arm held back. And then you thrust downwards with all your strength. The stick strikes the water with a loud splash, but the fish is gone, a silver flash in the murky water. It is a difficult, often fruitless method. You know there are better ways. Later in the season, when the river is lower, your whole clan might work together to build a weir, a low, V-shaped wall of stones in a shallow part of the river. Fish swimming downstream would be funneled into the point of the V and trapped in a small, contained pool, ready for easy collection. It's simple, brilliant, and requires cooperative engineering. Your small foraging party's focus on this river is a microcosm of a much larger human story. For many of your cousins around the world, living on the coasts or along major river systems, this aquatic bounty isn't just a supplement. It's the entire foundation of their way of life. These riverine and coastal populations had access to an incredibly rich and stable diet of fish, waterfowl, seals, and most importantly, shellfish. This constant, predictable food source may have allowed them to live in larger, more sedentary communities long before the invention of agriculture. The evidence for this is monumental. The handful of snails you've just gathered is the beginning of a process that, when repeated for generations, creates massive shell middens. These are essentially ancient garbage heaps, hills composed of millions upon millions of discarded shells, found at archaeological sites all over the planet. They are undeniable proof of the long-term, intensive, and successful harvesting of the water's bounty. The old woman has her own, more cunning method for fishing. She has led you to a small, almost stagnant side pool, barely connected to the main river. She then walks to a specific tree with papery, peeling bark. She strips a long piece and, using a heavy stone, begins to pound it, shredding the fibers. After a few minutes of this, she takes the pulpy, mashed bark and swishes it around vigorously in the small pool. For a few moments, nothing happens. Then, one by one, small fish begin to float lazily to the surface, their gills struggling. They are stunned, but not killed. You and the others easily scoop them from the water. You are witnessing a form of chemical warfare. The bark of this particular tree contains natural compounds called saponins, which, when released into the water, interfere with a fish's ability to absorb oxygen. It's a brilliant and effective technique, a form of sophisticated ethnobotany that uses a plant's hidden properties to your advantage. Your own comfort standing here, thigh deep in the cool water, your bipedal stance giving you a stable platform, your hands free to hold a spear, is a remarkable thing. This deep, ancient connection between humans and water has led some scientists to a fascinating, if highly controversial, idea known as the aquatic ape hypothesis. This fringe theory suggests that many of our most unique human traits, our upright, two-legged stance, our lack of dense body fur, our layer of subcutaneous fat, even our descended larynx, evolved during a period millions of years ago when our ancestors lived in a semi-aquatic environment, perhaps foraging in coastal wetlands or flooded forests. While the theory is not accepted by mainstream paleoanthropology, it highlights the ongoing debate about the powerful, formative role that water has played in your evolutionary journey. Standing here in this river, with a full bag and the hunt for food still underway, it certainly feels like you are exactly where you belong. Meanwhile, miles away and high above the river valley where you now forage, the day has a different texture, a different energy. The sun is high in the sky, beating down from its zenith. It's midday. Here on the wind-swept ridges, the two hunters have been moving for hours, their pace steady and relentless. They are not gathering. They are searching. They move with a silent, focused intensity that is utterly different from the patient awareness of the foraging party. Their bodies are taut, their senses honed to a razor's edge, filtering the world for a very specific set of signals. Every snap of a twig, every scent on the wind, every distant movement is captured, analyzed, and categorized as either a threat, a sign of prey, or irrelevant noise. Their eyes are not just scanning for the familiar shape of a deer or a horse. They are reading a different, more dangerous text. The carnivore's newspaper. The soft earth of a game trail holds the morning's headlines. One of the hunters kneels, his fingers hovering over a line of tracks. A wolf pack, 5 of them, passed this way not long after sunrise. He can tell by the faint moisture still held in the compressed earth. These tracks are a warning, but they are also a potential guide. A wolf pack on the move is a pack that is hunting, and where there is a hunt, there may soon be a carcass. A little further on, they find a different sign altogether. A massive pile of scat, filled with hair and bone fragments, left by a cave lion. Beside it is a single deep paw print the size of a dinner plate. They give the spot a wide berth, a silent acknowledgement of the true king of this landscape. But even this is valuable information. Knowing a lion patrols this territory means being extra vigilant, but it also means there is a powerful hunter in the area who might do the difficult and dangerous work of the kill for them. In this world, you are not always the apex predator. You occupy a complex and dangerous middle ground. You are a mesopredator. You hunt, but you are also hunted. Your survival depends not just on your own prowess, but on your cunning and your ability to exploit the opportunities created by the other, more powerful killers in your ecosystem. A huge part of your strategy involves scavenging, letting a pack of hyenas or a cave bear make a kill, and then using your superior intelligence and teamwork to drive them away long enough to steal a share of the meat. It's a high-risk, high-reward game of nerves and strategy. The smoking gun for this behavior will one day be found etched onto the bones of the very animals these predators hunt. When a future archaeologist excavates the fossilized leg bone of a steppe bison, they might find a confusing set of marks. Under a microscope, they will see the deep, rounded grooves left by the gnawing teeth of a large carnivore, clear evidence of a predator's meal. But then, they will see something else. Slicing directly across those tooth marks will be a series of fine, sharp, parallel lines, the unmistakable signature of a flint tool used to strip the remaining meat from the bone. These overlapping marks are the undeniable proof. The predator got there first, and your people came second, arriving to claim what was left. The hunters continue their slow, silent patrol, their gaze sweeping from the ground to the horizon. One of them spots a set of tracks that makes him pause. A lone wolf. But there's something different about this trail. Every fourth print on the left side is dragged, shallower than the others. The wolf is injured. It has a limp. Suddenly, the calculus of risk changes. A lone, injured predator is no longer just a competitor. It is potential prey. Hunting a carnivore is incredibly dangerous. They are smart, fast, and armed with formidable weapons of their own. But the rewards are significant. A wolf provides not only a modest amount of meat, but also a thick, warm pelt that is invaluable for surviving the brutal winters. They are tracking the tracker, and the roles of hunter and hunted are suddenly fluid. But for now, they let the wolf's trail go. There is a better sign, a more certain promise. One of the hunters stops dead and lifts his chin towards the sky. His partner's eyes follow his. Far in the distance, a single black speck is circling against the vast blue canvas of the sky. A vulture. As they watch, another speck joins it, and then a third. They are not just gliding on the thermals, they are converging, their lazy circles tightening around a single, unseen point on the ground below. This is the greatest signpost in the Paleolithic world. It is a living, soaring arrow, an unmistakable beacon that points directly to one thing: death. And where there is death, there is food. This constant search for another animal's kill is at the very heart of one of the great debates in paleoanthropology. The question of man the scavenger versus man the hunter. For a long time, the prevailing image was of our ancestors as heroic big-game hunters, noble masters of the chase. But another, perhaps more compelling, theory argues that our primary strategy for acquiring meat was scavenging. It posits that we evolved our big brains not just to better throw a spear, but to develop the complex, strategic thinking needed to outwit a pack of hyenas. It took cunning to observe, to wait for the right moment, and to use coordinated action to dash in and steal a prime cut from a fresh kill. Which was the dominant strategy? The debate still rages, but the answer is likely that you were both. You were whatever you needed to be on any given day. You were an opportunist. And today, the circling vultures are an opportunity you cannot ignore. The hunters change direction, their steps now filled with a new and urgent purpose. They begin to move towards that distant, spiraling beacon in the sky. The hunters move with a swift and silent purpose, their path guided by the spiraling column of vultures in the sky. As they descend from the ridge into a more sheltered basin, the wind shifts, and a new element is added to their hunt. The smell. It hits them first as a faint, foul taint on the air, and it grows stronger with every step they take. It is a complex and deeply visceral odor, the sharp, coppery tang of fresh blood, a smell that speaks of life spilled violently onto the earth. Beneath that is a heavier, gut-wrenching stench, the smell of a punctured paunch and the beginnings of decay. It is the perfume of death, but to the hunters, it is the scent of opportunity. It is the smell of food. They slow their pace as they get closer, moving now with immense caution, using the cover of rocks and sparse, thorny bushes. The sounds begin to reach them, the low, agitated squawks of the vultures jostling for position in the branches of a dead tree, and the thick, droning hum of a million flies. The lead hunter peers around a large boulder and takes in the scene. It's a small clearing, the ground torn up and trampled, telling the story of a violent struggle. At its center lies the prize, the carcass of a megaloceros, a giant deer, its magnificent palm-like antlers dug into the dirt. But they are not the first to arrive. The deer's belly has been ripped open, and much of the choicest muscle meat from the haunches and back is already gone. The culprits are not hard to spot. Sprawled in the shade of a nearby thicket, no more than 100 paces away, is a clan of spotted hyenas. They are sleeping, their bellies grotesquely distended, their muzzles still sticky with blood. They are in a deep food coma, having gorged themselves on the kill. This is the moment of decision. The hunters are standing at the heart of the scavenger's dilemma, a perfect tense calculation of risk versus reward. The reward is obvious, a massive package of fat and protein, far more than they could hope to get from a rabbit or a bird. But the risk is equally immense. The hyenas are one of this world's most formidable predators, with bone-crushing jaws and a pack mentality that can overwhelm any opponent. If they wake, the hunters will be in a fight for their lives. This is the reality of scavenging. It is not a matter of simply picking up a free meal. It is a high-risk, high-reward strategy that demands courage, speed, and an unnerving ability to manage fear. A silent communication passes between the two men. One nods, hefting his spear. He will be the lookout. His job is to stand between his partner and the sleeping predators, a silent, deadly sentinel. His eyes will never leave the hyenas, watching for the first twitch of an ear, the first sign of waking. The other hunter, your ancestor, gives a nod in return and slips out from behind the rock, his stone tools already in his hand. He moves in a low crouch, his footfalls making no sound on the dusty ground. He is a ghost, a fleeting presence at the edge of the hyena's feast. He reaches the carcass and begins to work with a desperate, focused speed. The buzzing of the flies is a deafening roar in his ears. He ignores the remaining scraps of muscle meat for a moment. There is a greater prize to be had. His first target is the head and the long, heavy leg bones. This focus is a crucial clue that future scientists will use to understand your life. The types of bones found at early human campsites are incredibly revealing. When archaeologists find a site littered with an abundance of skulls, jaws, and lower leg bones, all parts with relatively little meat, but very few ribs, vertebrae, or pelvic bones, It tells a clear story. It suggests that the humans were not the first to the kill. They were arriving after the primary predators had already consumed the meatiest parts, and they were intelligently targeting the leftovers that other animals couldn't fully exploit. The working hunter uses his heavy hand axe to swiftly sever the joints of the front and back legs, the stone thudding against bone. He cannot carry the whole carcass, so he must take the most valuable parts. And the most valuable parts are not the meat. The true treasure is locked away inside. He pauses his butchery, grabs a heavy, rounded stone, and with a single powerful and well-aimed blow, he smashes it down onto the thickest part of a thigh bone. The bone cracks open with a sharp report. He drops the hammerstone and uses his fingers to scoop out the contents. A thick, waxy, pinkish-white substance. It is the marrow. This is one of the most calorie-dense foods in nature, almost pure fat and protein. It is a prehistoric superfood, and with their simple tool, the hunters can access it in a way the hyenas, for all their jaw strength, cannot. He eats a mouthful on the spot, the rich, greasy substance, a powerful fuel for the tense work. He is a passive scavenger in this moment, a thief in the day, taking advantage of the predator's slumber. But this tense standoff is a perfect snapshot of a major scholarly debate. Did we actively confront other predators to drive them from their kills? Or were we passive scavengers, patiently waiting until they were finished? The level of confrontation is a major point of contention. Some argue that a coordinated group of humans, shouting, waving their arms and throwing rocks, could easily intimidate a smaller group of predators and steal a fresh kill. This is confrontational scavenging. Others argue this was far too risky, and that our ancestors more likely played a waiting game, like this one. The truth is, you were probably masters of both strategies, your choice dictated by the number of predators, the size of your own group, and the raw calculus of hunger. The lookout gives a low hiss. One of the hyenas has stirred in its sleep. It is time to go. The other hunter works with renewed fury, hacking the last leg bone free and grabbing the heavy skull. With their precious nutrient-rich prizes in hand, the two men retreat as silently as they arrived, melting back into the landscape, leaving the vultures to their vigil and the hyenas to their slumber. They have won this gamble. The hunters retreat from the hyena's kill site, their hearts hammering against their ribs with a mixture of fear and triumph. They move quickly for a mile, putting distance between themselves and the sleeping predators, before finally finding a secure, high vantage point in a jumble of large rocks to catch their breath. They lay down their prizes, the two heavy leg bones and the skull of the giant deer. The marrow and brain locked inside are a fantastic gain, a guaranteed source of high-energy fat. It's a successful morning's work, and it has taken the sharpest edge off their hunger. But it is not the ultimate prize. It is not a wealth of fresh muscle meat that can be carried back to feed the entire clan. The scavenged meal was an appetizer. The main course is still out there, and the primary hunt is still on. From their perch, they survey the vast, rolling landscape below. Their eyes, accustomed to spotting the slightest movement, scan the plains. And then they see it. A few miles to the east, a dark, shifting patch on a sea of pale grass. A herd of wild horses, perhaps a dozen of them, are grazing peacefully, their tails swishing in the midday sun. Their coats are a dusty dun color, a perfect camouflage that makes them blend into the dry grassland. To an untrained eye, they would be almost invisible. To the hunters, they are a beacon. A new plan begins to form, a silent negotiation between two minds that have worked together for years. The communication is a language without words, a ballet of subtle gestures and shared intent. One hunter points with his chin towards the herd. The other gives a slow, almost imperceptible nod. Then, the first hunter holds up his hand, palm flat, and slowly moves it to the side, away from the main group of horses. His eyes flick to a single animal standing slightly apart from the others. It is not the big, powerful stallion who is constantly alert, nor is it a mare with a foal who would be fiercely protective. It's a younger animal, its attention focused more on a patch of sweet grass than on the surrounding landscape. It is the weak link, the path of least resistance. This is the cold, unsentimental calculus of the predator. The decision is made without a single sound. Now begins the most difficult part of the hunt. Not the chase, not the kill, but the stalk. Running at the herd would be a fool's errand, a waste of precious energy. The horses would be gone in a cloud of dust before the hunters got within 100 paces. The only chance of success is to get impossibly, intimately close without being seen, heard, or smelled. This will require an almost supernatural level of patience and skill. It could take hours. First, they check the wind. One of them plucks a dry seed head from a stalk of grass and lets it fall from his open palm, watching the direction it drifts. The breeze, however slight, is blowing from the horses towards them. This is perfect. It means their scent will be carried away from the herd's sensitive nostrils. They plot a route, not a straight line, but a long, circuitous path that will keep them downwind the entire time and make use of every fold in the terrain, every natural depression, every patch of tall grass, every solitary boulder. Before they set out, they pause at a small, muddy seep. They scoop up handfuls of the cool, dark mud and smear it over their arms, chests, and faces. This is not a ritual decoration. It is a brilliant and practical piece of camouflage. The mud helps to break up the pale outline of their human skin, allowing them to blend in more effectively with the mottled earth and shadows. More importantly, it masks their scent, covering the uniquely mammalian predator smell of their sweat with the neutral, harmless smell of the earth itself. Then they begin to move. For the first mile, they can walk in a low crouch, using a long ridge to hide their approach. But as they get closer, their movements become slower, more deliberate. The final few hundred yards are an exercise in agonizing slowness. They are on their bellies now, crawling through the grass, moving only when the horses' heads are down to graze. Every movement is calculated. A hand is placed down silently, then the weight is shifted. A knee is brought forward without rustling a single dry blade of grass. Their bodies are just inches from the ground, their muscles screaming with the strain of the slow, controlled movements. This island-perfect understanding between the two hunters is the seed of a profound debate. Just how sophisticated was their group coordination? Some theories propose that human language itself may have evolved specifically to meet the complex cognitive demands of a cooperative hunt like this one. The need to communicate abstract concepts and future intentions. You circle around from the left. Wait until the target is clear of the herd. I will make the first move. You follow. May have been the evolutionary crucible in which the first syntax and grammar were forged. Looking at them now, communicating these very ideas with a flick of the eyes and a subtle shift in posture, you can see how that leap might have started. If this stalk fails, if a single mistake alerts the herd and they bolt, the hunters might switch to a different, even more demanding strategy: persistence hunting. They are, after all, the greatest endurance runners the planet has ever produced. Their bodies are masterpieces of evolutionary engineering for long-distance travel. Their long, springy legs, their massive gluteus maximus muscles stabilizing their torsos, and above all, their ability to shed heat by sweating give them an incredible advantage over the fast-sprinting but easily overheated quadrupeds they hunt. They could, in theory, simply chase the horse herd for hours under the hot midday sun until their chosen target, unable to cool itself, collapses from hypothermia. But that is a strategy of last resort, a brutal expenditure of energy. The stalk is better. It is the art of the mind, the art of invisibility. For 2 hours they crawl, they freeze, they wait. The sun beats down on their muddy backs. Insects bite them, and they do not flinch. Finally, they are in position. They lie side by side behind a screen of dense brush no more than 20 paces from their unsuspecting target. Their hearts are beating a slow, steady rhythm. Their breathing is deep and controlled. The long, patient stalk is over. The air is thick with a silent, terrifying tension. The moment of truth is upon them. The world narrows to the space between you and the horse. The buzzing of the insects, the whisper of the wind, the distant cry of a bird. It all fades into an irrelevant hum. All that exists is the target, the weapon in your hands, and the coiled tension in your partner's body next to you. Your grip tightens on your spear. It is a simple tool, but it is the culmination of immense knowledge. The shaft is a young, straight sapling, seasoned and straightened over a fire, its surface smoothed with sandstone until it feels like an extension of your own arm. The business end is not just a sharpened point, but a lethal marriage of materials. A leaf-shaped blade of razor-sharp flint, expertly napped and secured to the shaft, with lengths of tough animal sinew and that black, miraculous birch bark glue. This is not a throwing javelin meant for elegant, long-distance strikes. It is a thrusting spear. It is a tool for close, brutal, and courageous work. This very weapon has a pedigree that stretches back into an almost unimaginable antiquity. In a place that will one day be called Germany, archaeologists will unearth a cache of perfectly preserved wooden spears from a site called Schöningen. Those spears, balanced and crafted with an aerodynamic sophistication that rivals modern javelins, will be dated to over 300,000 years ago. They were made and used not by your species, but by your deep ancestors, Homo heidelbergensis. The knowledge of how to turn a tree branch into a deadly and effective hunting tool is one of the most ancient and successful technologies your lineage has ever produced. The spear in your hand is the descendant of 500,000 years of research and development. Your partner catches your eye. He gives a single sharp nod. Now. The tension shatters. In the same instant, you both explode from your cover, a blur of sudden, terrifying motion. For the horse, it is as if the bush itself has sprung to life and is lunging at it. There is a single moment of stunned incomprehension, and then pure, panicked instinct takes over. The horse rears with a shrill whinny, its eyes wide with terror, and bolts. But its moment of hesitation was all you needed. You are not faster than the horse in a sprint, not even close. But your advantage lies in the first few explosive steps, and in your ability to anticipate its actions. As the horse turns to flee, your partner, who had already begun to circle wide, is there to head it off, forcing it to change direction. You are not just chasing it, you are herding it, using your bodies to guide its panic. You steer it away from the open plain and towards a patch of boggy, uneven ground near a small stream, a place where its powerful, graceful stride will be hampered by soft earth and tangled reeds. The moment is pure, heart-pounding chaos. The horse is a ton of panicked muscle, its hooves churning the ground, throwing clods of earth into the air. It kicks out with its hind legs, a blow that would shatter your bones in an instant. You move with a fluid grace, your body responding to the animal's movements with an instinct born of 1,000 hunts, 1,000 near misses. The spear is the star of this show, but it is not the only actor. The hunt is a dynamic and adaptable process, which has led to a debate among scholars. What was the primary weapon? While spears are well documented, some argue for the importance of simpler tools. Perhaps a heavy, well-aimed throwing stone to break an animal's leg and slow it down, or even just the coordinated brute force of a larger group wrestling a smaller animal to the ground. The toolkit was likely as diverse as the situations you faced, but today, the situation calls for the spear. You see your opening. The horse stumbles as its hoof sinks into the soft, wet ground. For a fraction of a second, its flank is exposed and it is off balance. You are already there. You do not throw the spear. You lunge, putting every ounce of your body weight and the explosive power of your legs into a single, devastating thrust. The stone point punches through the thick, coarse hide, sinking deep into the animal's side, just behind the ribs. The impact is a sickening, solid thud that you feel all the way up your arm. The horse screams, a sound of pain and terror that cuts through the afternoon air. The animal thrashes wildly, the spear shaft snapping, but the damage is done. Your partner seizes the moment, closing from the other side and delivering a second powerful thrust. The horse stumbles, staggers a few more steps, and then its legs buckle. It crashes to the ground with a heavy, shuddering finality. The wound your spear left, that deep, penetrating puncture, is a signature. Future scientists engaging in the field of experimental archaeology will recreate your spear and your stone points. They will use them on the carcasses of modern animals to test their effectiveness, and they will study the resulting marks on the bones. Through this kind of ballistic analysis, they can match the impact fractures found on 40,000-year-old animal fossils to the specific tools you used, confirming the deadly efficiency of your hunting technology. For a few long moments, the only sound is the ragged, heaving gasps of your own breathing and the frantic drumming of your heart. The violence is over as quickly as it began. The hunters stand over their kill, their bodies slick with sweat and splattered with mud and blood. The adrenaline begins to fade, replaced by a profound, bone-deep exhaustion and a feeling of immense, quiet triumph. You have not used a bison jump, where herds are cleverly stampeded over a cliff. You have not used fire to flush game from the brush. You have faced your prey directly, with simple tools and immense courage. You have risked your life, and you have won. The clan will eat well tonight. The silence that follows the kill is as profound as the preceding chaos. The hunters stand over the fallen horse, their bodies trembling with the receding wave of adrenaline. The air, which moments before was filled with the sounds of struggle, is now still, broken only by their own ragged breathing. The immediate danger from the prey is over, but a new set of pressures immediately descends. The work has just begun. The horse is a mountain of meat and bone, far too heavy to be moved. It must be processed here, on this boggy patch of ground where it fell. Every moment they linger is a risk. The scent of blood and opened entrails is a powerful magnet, a dinner bell that will be heard on the wind by every predator for miles around. The hyenas they evaded earlier, a wandering cave lion, a pack of wolves, all are potential and unwelcome dinner guests. The clock is ticking. With a shared, weary glance, they get to work. They pull out their butchering tools, the small, curated collection of stone implements they prepared this morning. First comes the brute force work. One hunter uses his heavy hand axe, not for cutting, but as a cleaver, striking the knee joints with powerful, well-aimed blows to help disarticulate the lower legs. But the true star of this process is a much smaller, more humble-looking tool. It's a simple flint flake, struck from a core just yesterday, its edge so sharp it is almost translucent. To a modern eye, it looks like nothing more than a broken piece of rock. In the hands of the hunter, it is a scalpel of astonishing efficiency. The lead hunter, the one who struck the first blow, takes the flake and begins the intricate work of opening the carcass. This is not a frenzied hacking. It is a display of immense anatomical knowledge, a skill passed down through countless generations from master to apprentice. He works with the calm, practiced efficiency of a surgeon. His first cut is a long, clean slice down the belly. The flint edge, sharper than a steel knife, parts the thick hide and the layer of fat beneath with surprising ease. He knows the landscape of this animal's body, as well as he knows the hills and valleys of his own territory. He knows where the major muscle groups lie, how they connect to the bone, and how to separate them cleanly along their natural seams. Nothing is wasted, and every movement is precise and energy efficient. Butchering an animal of this size with stone tools is an incredibly difficult and time-consuming process. It is a craft that requires not just strength, but a deep, intellectual understanding of two separate disciplines: how to create and use the perfect stone tool, and the intricate three-dimensional map of animal anatomy. Every slice he makes with that flint flake is writing a story on the bones of the horse, a story that will be legible 40,000 years from now. As the sharp edge of the flint scrapes against the bone while he fillets a large muscle from the thigh, it leaves behind a series of tiny, almost invisible parallel grooves in the bone's surface. These microscopic cut marks are the definitive proof of butchery, the smoking gun that tells an archaeologist without a shadow of a doubt that this animal was processed by a human. The shape and location of these marks are a language in themselves. A cluster of short, deep scratches around a joint indicates dismemberment. Long, sweeping parallel lines on a rib bone speak of filleting. And a patch of crisscrossing scrapes on a flat bone shows where the last tenacious bits of meat were scraped away for consumption. The bones will become a permanent record of the work being done here today. Before the main butchery begins, however, the hunters undertake one of the most important and delicate tasks: removing the hide. This tough, hairy covering is a resource almost as valuable as the meat it contains. Working together, they make careful, strategic cuts around the neck and legs, and then begin to peel the hide from the underlying muscle and fat. It's a difficult, strenuous process that requires both strength and finesse, as they try to keep the hide in one single large piece, avoiding rips and holes. This single sheet of skin, once it is scraped clean of fat and tissue and properly tanned, will become a warm blanket against the winter cold, a durable ground covering for the shelter, a set of clothes, or be cut into seemingly endless lengths of strong leather cordage. It is a vital raw material, and they treat it with the respect it deserves. As the carcass is systematically broken down into manageable sections, a prized haunch here, the ribs there, the tenderloins carefully set aside, a fundamental question of their society hangs unseen in the air. How will this great wealth of food be shared? Was the lead hunter, the one who struck the killing blow, entitled to the choicest cuts, the liver and the tenderloins, as a right of his success? Or was the meat to be divided according to a different, more complex social contract? Many anthropologists believe these societies were governed by a system of reciprocal altruism, where all food, especially from a large kill like this, was shared among the entire clan according to their need. The successful hunters gained immense prestige, but their obligation was to provide for the group. The children, the elders, and even the unsuccessful hunters. This system of sharing created a powerful social safety net, ensuring that one person's good fortune today could save another from starvation tomorrow. The division of this horse is not just a practical problem, it is a reinforcement of the social bonds that allow your people to survive. The hunters work in a focused silence, their arms and faces smeared with blood, the pile of meat and useful parts growing beside them. The sun has begun its long descent in the sky. The work is hard, but the reward is immense. They have transformed a dead weight into a portable larder, a bounty of life-giving food and resources. The butchery is complete. The hunters now stand amidst the dissected remains of their kill, their bodies slick with a mixture of sweat and blood. The adrenaline that fueled the chase and the kill has long since evaporated, leaving behind a profound, bone-deep weariness. Below the fatigue, the gnawing hunger that began the day has returned with a vengeance, sharpened by the hard labor and the overwhelming scent of fresh meat. They have been working for hours, surrounded by food, without taking a single bite. That is about to change. There will be no fire here. Building one would take too long and create a plume of smoke that would advertise their location to every predator in the territory. The great feast will happen at the camp, under the protection of the clan and the roaring hearth. But the hunters cannot wait that long. They need to refuel now, to replenish the immense energy they have expended, and to power their bodies for the arduous task of carrying this heavy load of meat back home. This will be the butcher's feast, a meal taken right here, on the spot. The lead hunter doesn't reach for a piece of muscle meat. He reaches for the organ that is, to him, the most valuable and life-giving part of the animal. Using his flint flake, he carefully cuts a thick, dark red slice from the horse's liver. It is still warm. He lifts the slice to his mouth and eats it, his eyes closing for a moment in satisfaction. The taste is rich, dense, and intensely metallic, with a smooth, almost creamy texture. It is a flavor that would be overpowering to a modern palate, but to him, it is the taste of pure vitality. He is not just sating his hunger, he is taking his vitamins. In many modern cultures, organ meats, or offal, are treated as undesirable byproducts. But in most hunter-gatherer societies, they were, and still are, the most prized parts of an animal. This is because they are nutritional powerhouses, far more densely packed with essential vitamins and minerals than any steak or roast. The liver is a storehouse of iron, folic acid, and a host of B vitamins. The heart, which the other hunter is now slicing into, is rich in coenzyme Q10. These organs are the hunter's rightful reward, a potent injection of the micronutrients needed to repair their strained muscles and replenish their energy stores. They are eating the part of the horse that will give them the strength to carry the rest of it. Next, they turn their attention to the long bones they set aside earlier. This is the second course of their immediate meal. The hunter places one of the thick femur bones onto a large flat rock that will serve as an anvil. He then picks up the heavy, rounded hammerstone he used to crack the scavenged bones this morning. The way he breaks this bone is not random. It is a precise and practiced technique. He strikes the bone's shaft with a sharp, glancing blow. Instead of shattering, the bone breaks with a clean, spiral fracture, popping open and exposing the full length of the marrow cavity within. The technique is so effective and so distinctive that archaeologists can instantly recognize it. The millions of bones with this same patterned fracturing found at ancient sites are the undeniable physical evidence of this exact activity: intensive marrow extraction. The hunter uses his finger to scoop out the marrow. It is a thick, waxy, fatty substance, the consistency of cold butter. He eats it directly from his fingertip. This is the Paleolithic energy bar. It is almost pure, high-quality fat, the most calorie-dense food source available in this entire landscape. It provides a slow, steady release of immense energy, the perfect fuel for a long and difficult journey under a heavy load. Even after these rich foods, the hunters might seek out one more, rather surprising course. One of them makes a careful incision into the horse's large, multi-chambered stomach. He pulls aside the tissue to reveal the contents: a warm, wet, greenish-brown mash of partially digested grasses and herbs. This is chyme, the horse's last meal. To you, it would be an unthinkable thing to eat. But to the hunter, this green soup is a valuable resource. The horse has done all the hard work of chewing and breaking down the tough cellulose of the plants. What's left is a warm, pre-digested slurry, rich in vitamins, minerals, and salt, which can be difficult to find otherwise. It is a kind of ready-made salad, and a few mouthfuls can provide a welcome, tangy contrast to the rich, fatty organs and marrow. This entire on-the-spot meal raises a fascinating question, one that is still debated among scholars. Was eating raw meat common, or was it a rare, opportunistic event? There is no doubt that cooking was one of the most important innovations in human history. It kills parasites and bacteria, it makes tough tissues tender, and it unlocks far more of a food's nutritional value, making it easier for our bodies to digest. But the practical realities of a hunter's life often trump the ideal. A fire isn't always possible or safe to build. The need for immediate calories after a grueling hunt is a powerful imperative. While the majority of the meat from this horse will be cooked back at the camp, the on-the-spot consumption of certain safe and highly nutritious parts, like the liver, heart, and marrow, was likely a common and logical part of the hunting process. It was a necessary refueling stop on the long road to the evening feast. With their hunger finally silenced and their energy restored, the hunters prepare for the final stage of their mission. They are no longer running on empty. They are ready for the long haul home. With their bodies refueled by the raw, rich feast, the hunters turn to the final, and perhaps most grueling, phase of the hunt. The kill was an explosion of adrenaline and skill. The butchery was a feat of focused, anatomical knowledge. Now comes the long haul home, a brutal test of pure, grinding endurance. Before them lies a mountain of meat, bones, and hide, and it must all be transported miles across difficult terrain. The real work begins now. They must engineer a way to carry this immense load. The hide they so carefully removed becomes their first tool. They lay it on the ground, flesh side up, and load the smaller, messier items onto it, the prized organs, the skull, and other loose cuts of meat. Then, using a length of leather cordage, they cinch the hide up like a massive, primitive duffel bag. This heavy, bloody parcel can be dragged behind one of the hunters, a simple and effective sled that makes use of the animal's own skin. But the truly heavy parts, the massive haunches and shoulders, require a different solution. They find 2 stout, straight tree branches and quickly fashion a crude litter, a travois on which they can lash one of the haunches. The other is simply slung over the lead hunter's powerful shoulders. He staggers as he takes the full, dead weight, his feet sinking into the soft ground. His partner hefts the heavy frame onto his own back. The weight is immense, almost unbearable. It's a crushing, awkward load that strains every muscle in their backs, shoulders, and legs. They begin the journey, leaving the stripped, broken carcass to the waiting vultures. Their pace is no longer the swift, silent tread of the predator. It is a slow, lumbering, painful plod. Every step is a monumental effort. Every rise in the terrain becomes a mountain to be conquered. Every dip and rut in the path threatens to unbalance them and send them sprawling. This act, this brutal portage of food back to a central location, is one of the most profoundly human things they will do all day. No other primate does this. An ape eats where it finds its food. But your ancestors developed the revolutionary strategy of central place foraging. This ability to transport large quantities of resources back to a home base is the very foundation of your social structure. It is what allows for the division of labor. It is what allows the successful hunters to provide for the children, the elders, and the foragers who, on this day, might be less successful. It is the engine of food sharing, the social glue that binds the clan together into a single, cooperative unit that is far more resilient than any one individual. The hunters are no longer stealthy. They are now a walking advertisement for food, a moving beacon of scent. The metallic smell of blood drips from the meat, forming a powerful, invisible trail on the wind behind them. They are acutely aware of this. Their journey is not just a struggle against weight and distance. It is a race against the other predators of this land. They move with a new kind of vigilance, their eyes constantly scanning the horizon, their ears straining for the sound of padding paws or a predator's cry. They are powerful and armed, but they are also vulnerable, burdened by their prize and losing the advantage of surprise. The sun begins to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The urgency deepens. They must get back before full darkness, when the most dangerous nocturnal predators begin their hunt. They navigate by their internal map, but the path they choose now is not the stealthiest one. It is the most direct. Their minds are a constant flurry of calculation, weighing the risk of a shortcut through a dense thicket against the longer, safer route through an open plain. The evidence for this very journey is written in the archaeological record. When scientists excavate an ancient home base, they find a very specific assortment of animal bones. They find an abundance of the meaty upper limbs, the femurs and humeri of animals like this horse, but they find very few of the less useful, heavier, or more awkward bones, like vertebrae from the spine or the majority of the ribs. This pattern, sometimes called the schlepp effect, is the scientific signature of what the hunters are doing right now, selectively butchering a carcass at a kill site and transporting only the most valuable, high-utility parts back home. The length of this journey home, and the distance these hunters have traveled today, is a matter of intense debate. How large was a Paleolithic group's foraging radius? Some scholars argue for a limited daily range, suggesting that hunters would rarely stray more than 5 or 10 miles from their camp, returning each night. But other models suggest that small, specialized hunting parties could have been far more mobile. They may have undertaken long, multi-day journeys, carrying their tools and knowledge deep into the landscape, operating almost like a prehistoric special forces team on a long-range patrol. They would make kills far from home, consuming some of it on the spot, and perhaps smoking and drying the rest before making the long trek back to the main camp. Right now, however, all that matters is the next step, and the one after that. The hunter's muscles burn with a white-hot fire. The rough branch of the travois digs into his shoulder. The weight is a relentless, crushing force. But he keeps going. He is driven by the hunger of his family and the promise of the roaring fire, the safety of the cave, and the great feast that his labor will provide. Through the haze of his exhaustion, he sees a familiar landmark on the horizon, the lightning-scarred pine tree that stands sentinel on the hill above their shelter. He is almost home. As the sun bleeds across the western sky, the rock shelter is no longer a place of quiet, sleepy anticipation. It is a hive of purposeful activity. The foraging party, including you, returned over an hour ago, your own journey much shorter and less arduous than that of the hunters. Your collective bounty is laid out on a large, clean hide near the growing fire. The day's foraging has been a modest but definite success. The tubers you unearthed have been washed in the stream and now lie clean and ready for the coals. The leaf-wrapped bundle of fat grubs sits beside a small pile of fresh-water snails and the few fish that were stunned by the saponin bark. A handful of sharp-tasting greens and the precious sour fruits for bletting round out the collection. It is the day's guaranteed meal, the reliable bedrock of plant-based calories and small package proteins that has sustained your people for millennia. The children have been busy as well. Their day was not spent in idle play. They are apprentices in the craft of survival. The youngest ones may have stayed close to the shelter, but the older children would have gone on their own short-range foraging trips, learning to identify the common edible plants, practicing how to catch lizards with their bare hands, and searching for the unguarded nests of birds. Their contributions might be small, but the lessons are invaluable. Now, with the adults returned, their chores shift. Their primary task is to gather the immense amount of firewood that will be needed to keep the fire roaring through the night for cooking, warmth, and protection. You can see them now, dragging surprisingly large branches back to the camp, their faces set with a serious sense of their own importance. There is a quiet, diligent rhythm to the camp. The old woman is sorting through the edible greens. Another woman is using a bone awl to mend a tear in a leather pouch. But there's an undercurrent of tension. The hunters are not yet back. Every so often, a head lifts, an ear strains to catch a sound from the darkening woods. Then a shout goes up from one of the older boys, who has been acting as a lookout from a high rock. He points, his voice sharp with excitement. All activity in the camp ceases. Every head turns. And then you see them. The two hunters emerge from the tree line at the edge of the clearing. They are a vision of beautiful, brutal success. They are walking slowly, their bodies stooped under a colossal weight. They are covered in a tapestry of dried sweat, brown mud, and the stark, dramatic red of dried blood. They look utterly, profoundly exhausted, but they are not broken. They are triumphant. A wave of palpable relief and excitement washes through the camp. The quiet diligence of the last hour is replaced by a buzz of joy and anticipation. The hunters stagger the last few paces and, with collective synchronized groans, they let their burdens fall to the ground. The heavy haunch of the horse lands with a meaty thud. The travois is lowered, its own precious cargo of meat laid bare. The bloody hide sack, full of organs and the prized skull, is untied. The sheer quantity of it all is stunning. The risk they took has paid off 100-fold. Now, the two halves of the day's labor are brought together. Your baskets of roots and insects are placed near the hunter's pile of meat and bones. This is it, the full spectrum of the Paleolithic diet, lying here on the ground. The reliable, hard-won carbohydrates and vitamins from the earth, and the glorious high-risk prize of fat and protein from the hunt. This pile of food is more than just a meal. It is a physical manifestation of their social contract. Food sharing is the ultimate form of social insurance in your world. The hunter's success today will feed you, the forager. Your knowledge of tubers will feed the hunters on a day when their hunt fails. My strength and your knowledge, your luck and my diligence, all flow into a common good that allows the group to weather the unpredictable swings of fortune. This communal focus is reflected in the very layout of your home. The great central hearth, where the fire now burns brightly, is the heart of your world. It is the kitchen, the living room, and the workshop. Your sleeping areas, the spots where tools are made, the places where hides are scraped. It all radiates outwards from this shared central fire. This specific spatial arrangement, found in ancient campsites all over the globe, is the archaeological evidence for the communal life you lead. It is a blueprint for a society built around a shared fire, where food is brought, processed, cooked, and distributed. The scene is one of happy, triumphant reunion. But was the process of sharing always so harmonious? Ethnographic studies of more recent hunter-gatherer societies suggest that the distribution of food, especially a large prize like this, can be a complex and even tense social negotiation. There are often intricate, unspoken rules about who is entitled to what part of an animal. The hunter who made the kill might have rights to certain parts, but he is also under immense social pressure to be generous. A hunter who hoards his kills or shares unfairly will quickly lose the respect of the group and may find himself without support when his own luck turns sour. Fairness is a currency as valuable as any flint blade. For now, though, the tension is forgotten, replaced by the unified, joyous anticipation of the feast to come. With the full bounty of the day's labor gathered and the last of the evening light fading from the sky, the focus of the entire clan now turns to the heart of the home, the fire. The small, carefully tended bed of embers that has been kept alive all day by the camp's tenders is now the center of all attention. The children bring their final loads of scavenged firewood, dry, seasoned branches that will burn hot and clean. The adults begin to feed the embers, first with fistfuls of dry grass and small twigs that catch with a satisfying whoosh, and then with larger and larger pieces of wood. Within minutes, the gentle orange glow is transformed into a roaring, crackling blaze. The fire leaps and dances, a living entity of light and heat. It pushes back the deep, encroaching darkness of the prehistoric night, turning the interior of the rock shelter into a warm, flickering island of safety in a vast, cold world. The sudden, intense heat chases the persistent chill from your bones. This fire is the anchor of your existence, a piece of the sun brought down to earth. It is so much more than a stove. It is the television, the kitchen, the security system, and the community center, all rolled into one. Its light is where the fine, detailed work of making tools and mending clothes can continue after sunset. Its perimeter is a magical, invisible wall that the great nocturnal predators of the night are deeply reluctant to cross. It is the focal point of your social world, the place where stories are told, where knowledge is passed down, where tensions are soothed, and where the bonds of the clan are forged anew each night. Everyone naturally gravitates towards its light and warmth, their faces illuminated by its flickering glow, their shadows dancing on the stone walls behind them. And now, it will become a kitchen. The first preparations for the feast begin. A hunter takes a long, straight stick of green wood and expertly skewers several thick chunks of the fresh horse meat. He props the skewer on 2 forked sticks near the edge of the fire, close enough for the intense heat to roast the meat, but far enough that it will not be consumed by the flames. Another person takes the leaf-wrapped bundle of fat grubs and places it directly onto the hot embers at the edge of the fire. Then comes the sound and the smell. As the first drops of fat from the roasting horse meat hit the searingly hot coals below, they explode in a sharp hiss and sizzle. A plume of fragrant, greasy smoke rises into the air. The incredible aroma of roasting meat begins to fill the rock shelter, a smell that is deeply, primally satisfying. It is the smell of success, of safety, of a full belly. It is the smell of survival, and it triggers a mouth-watering cascade of anticipation throughout the entire clan. This simple act of applying heat to food is arguably as important to your evolution as the control of fire itself. The invention of cooking was a revolutionary leap that forever changed the human story. Cooking does many things. It kills the dangerous parasites and bacteria that riddle raw meat, making it far safer to eat. It breaks down the tough collagen in muscle tissue and the rigid cellulose in plants, making them tender and far easier to chew and digest. But most importantly, it unlocks nutrients. The process of heating food pre-digests it, making the proteins and complex carbohydrates within it vastly more available to your body. Cooking dramatically expanded the range of things you could eat and the amount of energy you could get from them. In fact, this process may be the very thing that made you truly human. This is the core of the cooking hypothesis, a powerful idea most famously championed by the anthropologist Richard Wrangham. The hypothesis argues that the massive cognitive leap seen in the evolution of the human brain was not just a happy accident, it was propelled by the adoption of a cooked food diet. Because cooked food is so much easier to digest, your ancestors no longer needed the massive, energy-guzzling digestive tract of other great apes. This saved metabolic energy, which could then be rerouted to fuel a different, even more energy-expensive organ, your brain. We are the species we are today, the hypothesis argues, not just because we were the ape that hunted, but because we were the ape that learned to cook. You don't have pots and pans, but your cooking technology is no less sophisticated for it. Besides roasting on a stick, you have other methods. One of the women is preparing an earth oven. She takes a large chunk of the horse's shoulder, wraps it in a thick layer of large, damp leaves, along with a handful of pungent wild herbs, and then buries this entire package deep within the hot coals and ash. There it will steam and roast slowly for hours, emerging tender and infused with flavor. Someone else might be preparing to boil the snails and greens by dropping fire-heated stones, plucked from the heart of the blaze with wooden tongs, one by one into a water-filled pouch made from an animal's stomach. The stones release their heat with a violent hiss, bringing the water to a boil. Yet, for all its importance, a central question remains a mystery. When exactly did cooking begin? The evidence for the control of fire is very old, stretching back over 1 million years. But direct evidence for cooking is much harder to find, and it is the source of endless scholarly debate. Archaeologists argue over the interpretation of charred animal bones found at ancient sites. Do those scorch marks represent a piece of meat being intentionally roasted for a meal? Or are they simply the remains of a bone that was discarded and accidentally kicked into the fire later? The ambiguity makes it incredibly difficult to place a firm start date on this revolutionary behavior. But here, tonight, there is no ambiguity. The food is roasting, the smells are intoxicating, and the great feast is about to begin. The wait is finally over. The lead hunter, his face illuminated by the firelight, approaches the sizzling skewers of meat. He leans in, inhaling the rich, smoky aroma, and judges them to be ready. He lifts the skewer from its cradle and carries it to a large, flat stone that serves as a communal cutting board. Using a sharp flint knife, he begins to slice off thick, generous chunks of the roasted horse meat. The outside is beautifully charred, a dark, crispy crust that seals in the juices. The inside, visible in the flickering light, is a perfect, steaming pink. A collective sigh of satisfaction ripples through the clan as the first pieces are passed around. You take your piece. It's hot, almost too hot to hold. You juggle it in your hands for a moment before taking the first bite. The taste is explosive, a symphony of flavors that electrifies every nerve in your mouth. There is the deep, smoky flavor from the fire, the savory, mineral-rich taste of the meat itself, and the incredible, buttery tenderness of the fat. It is the most delicious thing you can possibly imagine. The gnawing, aching hunger that has been your constant companion since before dawn finally begins to retreat, replaced by a wave of pure, unadulterated pleasure. Soon the side dishes are ready. The old woman uses her digging stick to rake the buried tubers from the hot coals. Their skins are blackened and brittle like charcoal, but she cracks them open to reveal a steaming, fluffy, golden interior. The intense heat has transformed the hard, starchy root into something soft, sweet, and incredibly comforting. The leaf-wrapped package of grubs is opened, revealing its contents to be golden brown, crispy, and sizzling. They taste nutty and savory, like little morsels of pure roasted fat. The snails, which have been steamed on a hot rock with a splash of water, are pulled from their shells with a twig and eaten. Small, chewy bites of protein. The day's disparate treasures have all come together in a magnificent feast. There are no plates, no forks, no napkins. You eat with your hands and a personal cutting flake. You hold a large rib bone, gnawing the succulent meat directly from it, the hot grease running down your chin and arms. You use a piece of bark as a makeshift plate for your roasted tuber, scooping the soft flesh with your fingers. It is a messy, communal, and deeply satisfying experience, a direct and visceral connection between your hunger and the food that is silencing it. The only sounds for a time are the crackling of the fire and the enthusiastic, contented sounds of eating. You and your clan are not just sating your hunger, you are engaging in a vital survival strategy. A successful hunt like this would trigger the gorge phase of a gorge and starve cycle that defined your lives. You eat as much as you possibly can, filling your bellies until they are tight and distended, consuming thousands of calories in a single sitting. This isn't gluttony. It is a profoundly logical response to an unpredictable world. You feast tonight because you have no idea if the next successful hunt will be tomorrow or 2 weeks from now. You are banking this incredible caloric windfall against the inevitable lean times ahead. Your own body is a living testament to this evolutionary past. The remarkable efficiency with which a modern human body can convert excess calories into stored fat, a trait that can lead to obesity and health problems in a world of constant food surplus, is very likely an adaptation to this very cycle. Your body is exquisitely designed to capitalize on moments of plenty, like this great feast, creating strategic reserves of energy to survive the periods of famine that are sure to follow. Your ability to easily put on weight is not a flaw. It is an ancient and once crucial survival mechanism. Even in this rustic feast, there is a touch of the gourmet. Near the fire, a hollowed-out stone holds a chunk of the horse's pure white fat, which has been slowly rendering down in the heat into a pool of clear, bubbling liquid. You take a piece of the leaner roasted meat and dip it into this liquid fat, a rudimentary and incredibly rich sauce that adds another layer of flavor and precious calories. You might also take some of the tart berries you gathered and mash them with a little of the rendered fat to create a sharp, tangy condiment that cuts through the richness of the meat. You are not just eating for fuel, you are eating for flavor. The scene is full of the sounds of eating, but what are the unspoken rules? What was the social etiquette of the feast? These are the questions that archaeology can't easily answer, leaving them to the realm of speculation and scholarly debate. Was there a ritual performed before the meal, a moment of thanks given to the spirit of the horse? Did the two hunters who made the kill have the honor of eating first, or were the elders and children served before anyone else? Was this a time for boisterous storytelling, with the hunters reenacting the drama of the stalk and the kill for the captivated audience? Or was it a time of more solemn, quiet communion? These cultural aspects of the meal, the traditions and beliefs that surround the food, are what elevate it from a simple feeding to a human ceremony. But their exact nature is a secret the past has kept. For now, all you know is that you are safe. You are together. And for the first time today, you are truly, deeply full. The great feast has ended. The sharp, demanding pangs of hunger have been silenced, replaced by a deep, warm, and heavy sense of satiation. The clan is content, lounging in the flickering firelight, the mood relaxed and peaceful. For a modern human, the day's work would be over. But for your people, the work is never truly done, especially not after a successful hunt. The meal was just the first harvest. Now begins the second, the meticulous and patient process of extracting every last drop of value from the prize the hunters brought home. The guiding principle of your world is simple and absolute. Waste not, want not. While some of the clan rest, others continue to work by the firelight. They turn their attention to the large bones of the horse that were set aside. The marrow extraction that the hunters began at the kill site now becomes a communal, almost meditative activity. An adult takes one of the heavy leg bones and places it on a large, flat anvil stone. Using a smooth, heavy cobble as a hammer, they strike the bone with a sharp, practiced blow. The bone cracks open with a satisfying sound, revealing the rich, waxy marrow inside. The shattered pieces are passed around, and the marrow is scooped out with a finger or a small sliver of bone. It's eaten on the spot, a fatty, incredibly rich dessert to the earlier meal of roasted meat. But the process does not end there. Even the shattered, seemingly useless fragments of bone still hold a final hidden reserve of nourishment. The old woman gathers these fragments into a pile. She then takes a large pouch, skillfully made from the waterproof stomach of a deer, and props it upright between several stones. She fills it with water from the stream, and then, using a pair of green wood tongs, she begins to pluck stones from the roaring heart of the fire. The stones glow with a fierce orange-white heat. She drops them, one by one, into the water-filled pouch. The effect is immediate and violent. Each stone hits the water with a loud hiss, releasing a furious cloud of steam and setting the water into a roiling boil. She continues this process, adding the shattered bone fragments to the boiling water. She is making a soup, a broth, without a pot. The intense heat of the stones breaks down the last remaining bits of tissue and fat within the porous structure of the bones. Slowly, a greasy, golden sheen of rendered fat, bone grease, rises to the surface of the water, along with valuable collagen and other nutrients. This nutrient-rich fatty broth will be sipped throughout the evening, providing a final warm infusion of calories. This meticulous, full carcass utilization is a hallmark of your people's ingenuity and their deep respect for the animals that sustain them. In a world of scarcity, nothing from a kill is ever discarded. The horse is not just a pile of meat, it is a complete resource package. The tendons and sinews, which are being carefully stripped from the bones, will be dried and processed into incredibly strong cordage for sewing clothes, hafting tools, and stringing bows. The bones themselves, once cleaned of their grease, will become raw material for tools, sharp awls and needles for leather working, pressure flakers for fine-tuning stone points, even perhaps beads for decoration. The archaeological evidence for this intensive processing is unmistakable. The ground around your fire is now littered with thousands of tiny, angular, shattered bone fragments. Future archaeologists will find campsites that look like they are paved with this material. The sheer quantity of these fragments, along with specific clues like pot lid fractures caused by the thermal shock of boiling, are the clear and undeniable scientific signature of this very activity. Bone grease processing. It tells them that you were masters of extracting every last possible calorie from your environment. The resourcefulness is taken to almost unbelievable extremes. One of the men takes the hooves, which were hacked off during the butchery. They contain no meat, no marrow. To most, they would be useless, but he knows a secret. He adds them to a different water pouch, which he will leave simmering with hot stones for many hours. This incredibly slow, low-heat cooking will gradually break down the tough keratin and collagen of the hooves into a thick, sticky, gelatinous substance. This primitive gelatin might be eaten as a last resort survival food, a strange, jiggly source of protein. Or it could be allowed to cool and dry, creating a powerful waterproof glue, another valuable tool for your chemical arsenal. The importance of the fatty broth now simmering away is a source of scholarly debate. How critical was this time-consuming process of making bone grease? Some researchers argue that it was a supplementary activity, a way to add a little extra flavor or nutrition when time allowed. But another school of thought argues that it was a critical survival strategy, especially in the harshest parts of the year. During the late winter and early spring, The animals themselves would be incredibly lean, their reserves of body fat depleted by the cold and lack of food. The hunters could bring back a kill that was almost pure, lean protein, a diet which, if eaten exclusively, can be dangerous. In these desperate times, the one place the animal still stored a reliable reserve of fat was deep within its bones. The marrow and the bone grease, therefore, were not just a bonus. They may have been the most vital source of the essential lipids your bodies needed to survive the brutal end of winter. The warm, greasy soup you sip is the taste of true security. Your belly is full, the fire is warm, and a deep, satisfied lethargy is settling over the clan. The day has been a spectacular success, a story of skill, courage, and cooperation that will be told for a long time. It would be easy to surrender to this feeling, to curl up in your sleeping furs and drift off into a well-earned, food-heavy sleep. But a pile of raw, fresh meat still lies near the fire, far more than even your gorging feast could diminish. This pile represents a new and urgent problem. In the cool night air, it will keep for a time. But with the coming of the new day's warmth, the invisible forces of decay will begin their work. Bacteria will multiply. The meat will begin to spoil. What you do in the next few hours will determine whether today's hunt was a fleeting meal or a lasting victory. Preservation is not a matter of convenience or modern meal prep. It is a desperate, non-negotiable race against time, a battle against the decay that threatens to steal this hard-won bounty. To win this battle, you will use the power of the fire in a different way, not for the quick, hot cooking of the feast, but for the slow, patient magic of preservation. Several members of the clan are already at work. They take the remaining large cuts of meat, the thick muscles from the back and the other haunch, and using their sharpest flint flakes, they begin to slice the meat into thin, uniform strips, each no thicker than your little finger. This is a task that requires precision. If the strips are too thick, they will not dry properly and will rot from the inside out. As the pile of meat strips grows, another person constructs a simple but effective rack. They drive 2 forked branches into the ground on either side of the fire pit and lay a long, straight pole of green wood across them. They are careful about where they place this rack. It is not positioned over the roaring hot flames, which would cook the meat too quickly. Instead, it is set up over a section of the hearth that has been converted into a low, smoldering fire fed with damp, punky wood and green leaves. This fire produces very little heat, but it generates a thick, continuous plume of dense, aromatic smoke. The strips of meat are then draped over the pole, a curtain of flesh hanging in the smoky air. This is your smokehouse. The process is slow, but it is a work of elegant, dual-purpose chemistry. First, the dry, smoky air slowly dehydrates the meat, drawing out the moisture that bacteria need to thrive. Second, the smoke itself is infused with a host of natural chemical compounds, phenols and other aldehydes, that are powerful antibacterial and antifungal agents. Over the next day, these strips of meat will be transformed into a form of prehistoric jerky, a lightweight, nutrient-dense, and remarkably durable food that will remain edible for weeks or even months. An even more sophisticated process is happening nearby. The old woman takes some of the jerky that was made from a previous kill, which is now hard and completely dry. She places it on a flat anvil stone and, using a heavy stone pounder, begins to pulverize it. She works tirelessly, pounding the hard strips until they are reduced to a fluffy, fibrous powder of pure protein. Into this meat fluff, she adds 2 other ingredients: a generous amount of the hot liquid horse fat that was rendered down by the fire, and a handful of dried, crushed berries for a touch of sweetness and flavor. She mixes this all together into a thick, energy-dense paste. This paste is then carefully packed into a cleaned section of the horse's intestine, which serves as a natural, edible casing. The result is a dense, black, sausage-like cake, the ancestor of pemmican. This is a true superfood, a perfectly preserved, calorie-dense, and highly portable ration that is ideal for the hunters to carry on long journeys. These techniques of smoking and drying are what allow your people to survive the great, cyclical challenges of your world. Food preservation is the technology that breaks the tyranny of the daily hunt. It allows you to store the incredible bounty of the autumn, the fat animals, the ripe berries, the abundant nuts, and carry that surplus into the long, lean months of the deep winter. It is your shield against seasonal shortages and unpredictable droughts. The scientific evidence for this kind of large-scale preservation is strong. At some ancient riverside settlements, archaeologists have found the remains of what appear to be wooden drying racks. Even more compellingly, they have discovered sites with massive concentrations of fish bones, literally tens of thousands of them, far more than any small band could possibly eat before they rotted. A find like this is a clear signpost for large-scale food processing, for a community that was catching fish wholesale and then smoking or air-drying them for long-term storage, and perhaps even for trade with other groups. Of course, your methods are dictated by your climate. In the frozen lands of the far north, your cousins would have little need for these smoky, time-consuming techniques. They have a far simpler and more effective tool, a natural freezer. By digging a deep pit into the permafrost, the layer of permanently frozen ground, they can create a larder that will keep meat perfectly preserved and fresh for an entire winter season. This whole scene, the diligent, forward-thinking work of preserving a surplus, challenges the old, simplistic image of your life as a constant, desperate hand-to-mouth struggle. It is the heart of a major scholarly debate. Did Paleolithic people store food on a large scale? The traditional view was of a life with no safety net, where an empty belly each morning was the primary motivator. But growing evidence suggests that this is an oversimplification. It now seems likely that many groups, particularly those in resource-rich environments, became so efficient at hunting, gathering, and, crucially, preserving, that they could create significant food surpluses. This ability to store wealth in the form of food would have had profound implications for your social structure, perhaps allowing for more leisure time, the support of non-producing specialists, and a more complex social and ceremonial life than was ever previously imagined. You are not just preserving food, you are building security. And with security, you build a future. The last of the preservation work is done. The racks of meat hang like red curtains in the thick, fragrant smoke. The camp is finally settling into a deep, quiet calm. For the first time since you awoke in the pre-dawn chill, your body is not making a demand. The gnawing ache in your stomach is a distant memory, replaced by a profound and heavy sense of fullness. It's a feeling of warmth that radiates from your core, a deep, cellular contentment that goes far beyond the mere absence of hunger. It is the feeling of security, of energy reserves overflowing. A pleasant, powerful lethargy creeps through your limbs. Your body, having been pushed to its absolute limits, is finally demanding its rest. But as the outer you slows down, a whole new world of activity is just beginning. An unseen, silent, and incredibly complex process is unfolding within the darkness of your own body. The great feast you just consumed has now embarked on a long journey of deconstruction and transformation. This is the unseen meal, the work of your digestive system. Down in your stomach, a powerful bath of hydrochloric acid is churning, breaking down the complex proteins of the horse meat you ate. The fibrous tissues are being unraveled, prepared for the next stage. The rich fats from the marrow and the rendered sauce are being emulsified, ready for absorption in the intestines, where they will provide the slow-burning fuel for the days to come. The sweet, simple sugars from the berries you snacked on have long since entered your bloodstream, providing a quick burst of energy, while the more complex carbohydrates from the roasted tubers are now being slowly broken down, a more sustained release of power. The vitamins and minerals from the liver, the greens, and even the stomach contents of the horse are being unlocked and ferried by your blood to every cell in your body, from the muscles in your legs to the neurons firing in your brain. It's a bustling, efficient, internal factory, turning the raw materials of the outside world into the very substance of your own life. This entire system, this gut, has a deep story to tell. It has co-evolved with your diet over millions of years. As your ancestors learned to hunt and then to cook, moving to higher quality, more easily digestible foods, the gut itself changed. It became shorter, sleeker, and more efficient, no longer needing the huge, energy-intensive fermentation chambers of a primate designed to live on tough, raw leaves. But you are not alone in this process. The true masters of this internal world are not you, but them. The trillions of microscopic organisms that live within your gut. This is your microbiome, a vast, teeming and wild ecosystem of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes that is as complex and diverse as any rainforest. Your microbiome is radically different from that of a typical modern human. A 21st century gut, shaped by antibiotics, processed foods, and hyper-sanitized environments, is often like a carefully manicured lawn with only a few species. Yours is a primordial wilderness, home to thousands of different species, each with a specific job to do. These microbes are not invaders. They are your essential partners. They are the ones who possess the chemical tools to break down the incredibly tough plant fibers from the tubers and greens, extracting nutrients that your own body cannot. They help synthesize essential vitamins. They are, in a very real sense, a second digestive system and a second immune system, working in perfect concert with your own. And scientists of the future will know this. They will learn about this lost inner world by studying the DNA that they can extract from your fossilized feces. These coprolites are a microbial graveyard, holding the genetic ghosts of your bacterial partners. By analyzing this ancient DNA, they can reconstruct the stunning diversity of your gut microbiome, proving just how much has been lost in the transition to the modern world. After such a rich, heavy meal, you feel a slight rumbling in your stomach, a touch of indigestion from the sheer volume of fat you've consumed. You get up and walk to the edge of the shelter, where a specific, scrubby-looking plant grows. You break off a piece of its bitter, aromatic root and begin to chew on it. The taste is unpleasant, but you are not eating it for flavor. This is a traditional digestive, a piece of folk medicine passed down through generations. You know from experience that chewing this root helps to settle your stomach and ease the feeling of being overfull. It is another small, sophisticated piece of your ethnobotanical knowledge. This brings up a crucial question about your powerful gut. You ate raw liver today. Your food was cooked on a fire, not in a sterile kitchen. How did your body handle the constant assault of pathogens and parasites? This is a subject of intense scholarly debate. One side argues that your immune system and your diverse, robust microbiome were simply far better equipped to handle these threats than a modern humans. Your gut was a well-defended fortress, your microbial allies capable of identifying and destroying many invaders before they could take hold. The other, more sobering view contends that this was a battle you frequently lost. This school of thought argues that parasitic infections were not a rare occurrence, but a chronic, debilitating, and near-universal fact of Paleolithic life. Your fossilized feces will show the eggs of whipworms, tapeworms, and countless other unwelcome guests. These parasites would have been a constant drain on your energy, a silent internal tax on every meal you ever ate. You may have been surviving, but you were never truly alone. The rich, fatty meal, combined with the smoky jerky and the sips of bone broth, has left a powerful thirst in its wake. Your mouth feels dry and sticky. You reach for the water skin you filled at the stream this morning, the one with the small pieces of charcoal rattling around inside. The water is cool and tastes clean, and you drink deeply, rehydrating your body after the feast. But your thirst isn't fully slaked, and you find yourself craving something with more flavor, something to cut through the lingering richness of the fat. You remember the small skin pouch where you stored the extra berries you gathered, the ones you didn't eat on the spot. You pick it up. It has been sitting here by the fire for hours, and the warmth has had a strange effect. Many of the berries at the bottom of the pouch have been crushed under the weight of the ones on top, creating a small pool of dark purple juice. As you open the pouch, a faint, sharp, tangy smell escapes, a scent that is both fruity and strangely pungent. It's a smell you've encountered before when you found overripe, fallen fruit on the forest floor. Curious, you tilt the pouch to your lips and take a sip of the juice. The taste is a surprise. It's not the pure, simple sweetness of the fresh berry. It has a sharp, acidic bite and a distinct fizziness that tingles on your tongue. And as you swallow, there's a strange, unfamiliar warmth that spreads through your chest, a feeling completely different from the warmth of the fire. It's a pleasant, intriguing sensation. You take another larger sip. Without knowing it, you have just become one of history's first sommeliers. The natural yeasts present on the skins of the berries, combined with the warmth of the fire and the sugars from the crushed fruit, have kick-started the ancient and magical process of fermentation. You are drinking a primitive, low-alcohol fruit cider. The strange, pleasant warmth you feel is the effect of the ethanol that the yeasts have produced. This experience, this accidental brush with alcohol, is the heart of what's known as the drunken monkey hypothesis. This idea suggests that our attraction to alcohol isn't a modern phenomenon, but a deep-seated evolutionary trait. Our distant primate ancestors, the theory goes, foraged on the forest floor for fallen fruit. This fruit was often overripe and naturally fermenting, containing a small but significant amount of alcohol. The scent of the alcohol acted as a powerful signal, a way to find this high-calorie food source from a distance. As a result, our ancestors evolved a preference for this scent and a tolerance for its effects, pre-adapting our brains to find the sensation of mild intoxication pleasant. Your enjoyment of this fizzy, tangy berry juice is an echo of a behavior millions of years old. Of course, your accidental brew is a world away from the beverages of the future. The intentional, large-scale fermentation of drinks like beer and wine is a hallmark of the much later Neolithic agricultural revolution. It was only when people began to produce massive surpluses of grain and fruit that they could afford to dedicate a portion of their harvest to the deliberate and complex craft of brewing. But the accidental fermentation of fruit in a skin bag or a hollowed-out gourd is a natural, spontaneous process that would have been a common, if not fully understood, occurrence in your world. The scientific evidence for your body's long relationship with alcohol is written in your own genes. While direct proof of Paleolithic alcohol consumption is virtually non-existent, genetic studies can trace the history of the enzymes that allow us to process it. One key enzyme, alcohol dehydrogenase, is responsible for the first step in breaking down ethanol. Scientists have discovered that a crucial mutation appeared in the gene for this enzyme in our primate ancestors around 10 million years ago, making it 40 times more efficient. This strongly suggests that our ancient relatives were consuming enough fermenting fruit for it to become a real evolutionary pressure, favoring those who could process the alcohol quickly and efficiently. As you enjoy the pleasant, relaxing buzz from your berry juice, you notice the old woman engaged in a different kind of brewing. She is using the hot stone boiling method, but she is not making broth. Into the pouch of boiling water, she has placed several strips of bark from a willow tree. She is making a medicinal tea. She will give this bitter, astringent brew to the two hunters to help soothe the deep aches in their muscles after their grueling day. She doesn't know the chemistry, but she knows the tradition. This tea helps with pain and fever. The willow bark she is using is a natural source of salicylic acid, the active ingredient that scientists of the future will synthesize to create aspirin. This accidental buzz from the berries and the intentional medicine from the bark opens the door to a more mysterious and speculative question. Could other, more powerful psychoactive substances have been part of your diet? It's a highly debated topic. Is it possible that some groups, in some places, discovered the mind-altering properties of certain mushrooms or other plants? Could they have used these substances not for their caloric value, but for their ability to induce visions, to connect with the spirit world, or for use in shamanic rituals? Direct evidence is almost impossible to find, as these substances leave no trace in the archaeological record. But given your people's incredibly deep and sophisticated knowledge of the plant world, it is a tantalizing possibility. For tonight, though, the gentle, happy warmth from the fermented berry juice is more than enough. You lean back against the warm stone wall of the shelter, a feeling of deep contentment washing over you. The fire crackles, your belly is full, and a pleasant, gentle warmth from the fermented berry juice spreads through your limbs. It is a moment of perfect peace after a long and strenuous day. But a small, persistent annoyance begins to intrude on your tranquility. A tough, stringy fiber from the roasted horse meat has become stubbornly wedged between two of your back molars. You probe it with your tongue, but you can't dislodge it. It's a tiny problem, but its presence is maddening. A single sharp note of discord in an otherwise harmonious state of being. You are not the first or the last human to be vexed by this problem. You look around and pick up a small, sharp twig that has fallen from the firewood pile. You examine the point, find it suitable, and then begin the delicate and satisfying work of excavating the offending fiber. You carefully guide the point of the twig into the gap between your teeth, probing and scraping until you finally feel the fiber pop free. It's a moment of immense, immediate relief. This simple universal human habit, the use of a toothpick, is a thread of shared experience that stretches from your fire-lit cave into the brightly lit restaurants of the distant future. As you idly clean your other teeth with the twig, you are unknowingly tending to a set of teeth that are, in one crucial respect, spectacularly healthy. Far healthier, in fact, than those of the average person living 40,000 years in your future. Despite the complete absence of toothbrushes, fluoride toothpaste, or dental floss, you have a surprising and powerful secret weapon in the fight against oral disease: your diet. The food you have eaten today, meat, tubers, greens, berries, insects, is almost entirely free of the refined sugars and easily fermentable carbohydrates that fuel the acid-producing bacteria responsible for modern tooth decay. You have very few, if any, cavities. This is the great paradox of Paleolithic dental health. You are free from the plague of caries, but you are beset by another problem entirely: extreme tooth wear. While you have few cavities, your teeth are subjected to a lifetime of relentless abrasion. The tubers you eat still carry a fine coating of abrasive grit, no matter how well you wash them. The smoke from the fire deposits a gritty film on everything. The wind itself is often full of dust that settles on your food. And the very act of chewing tough, fibrous meat and plants, and using your teeth as a third hand to grip leather or sinew, all acts like a constant, low-grade sandpaper. Over the course of your life, this will slowly but surely grind your teeth down, wearing away the high cusps of your molars until they are flat, and eventually, if you live long enough, wearing them down to painful, sensitive stumps. This is the mainstream fact of your dental life, a trade-off between a low rate of decay and a high rate of wear. The evidence for this is written in stone, or rather, in the bone of your own skull. The examination of thousands of ancient skeletons by paleopathologists confirms this pattern with astonishing clarity. Skulls from your era and before consistently show teeth with heavy wear but very few cavities. Then, with the arrival of the agricultural revolution in the Neolithic period, the pattern flips dramatically. The new diet, rich in soft, starchy, high-carbohydrate grains, causes the rate of dental caries to explode, a problem that will continue to plague humanity for the next 10,000 years. And the evidence for your toothpick habit? That is written on your teeth as well. Archaeologists frequently find small, telltale grooves and polished notches worn into the sides of ancient teeth, exactly where a person would have habitually worried at a space with a piece of wood or bone. Your dental hygiene is not limited to simply picking your teeth. You might also practice a more active form of cleaning. You reach for a different type of twig, this one from a plant you know to have special properties. You chew on the end of the stick, and its woody fibers begin to separate and fray, forming a small, brush-like bundle. You can then use this chew stick to scrub the surfaces of your teeth, dislodging food particles. The wood itself also releases a bitter antiseptic sap that helps to clean your mouth and freshen your breath. It is a simple, but surprisingly effective toothbrush and mouthwash in one. So, were your teeth healthier than a modern person's? This is the heart of a scholarly debate about quality of life. How much did dental problems actually affect you? A life without cavities sounds appealing, but the consequences of extreme wear could be just as devastating, if not more so. Once the enamel was worn away, exposing the soft dentin and eventually the nerve-filled pulp, the pain would have been constant and excruciating. This could easily lead to a massive infection in the jaw, an abscess that could swell to block your airway or spread into your bloodstream, leading to a slow and agonizing death. Tooth loss was common, so while you may have been spared the sharp, sudden pain of a cavity, you were faced with the chronic, debilitating agony of wear and infection. It was not a dental paradise, but simply a different landscape of pain. For tonight, however, your discomfort is solved and your mouth is at peace. With the practical tasks of eating and preservation mostly complete, the atmosphere in the rock shelter shifts. The focus moves from the body to the mind, from the satisfaction of individual hunger to the reinforcement of the collective. The clan is gathered in a loose semicircle around the great fire, its warm light pushing back the shadows and painting their faces in flickering shades of orange and red. The evening's entertainment, and its most important lesson, is about to begin. The lead hunter, now rested and fed, becomes the center of attention. He begins to tell the story of the day. His language is a rich and complex tapestry of spoken words, expressive hand gestures, and outright mimicry. He is not merely reporting. He is performing. He gets up and demonstrates the long, slow belly crawl of the stork, his movements sinuous and silent, and a wave of appreciative murmurs ripples through the group. He shows how the horse's head was turned, the moment of distraction. He reenacts the explosive burst from cover, his body coiling and then lunging forward, an imaginary spear in his hand. The younger children watch with wide, unblinking eyes, their minds absorbing every detail. This is not just a boastful story of a great hunter. It is a vital transfer of knowledge, a tactical debriefing, a lesson in animal behavior, terrain, and technique that is absolutely essential for the survival of the next generation. The foraging party, too, shares its news, describing the new patch of tubers they found by the crooked stream, ensuring that this new resource is now part of the clan's collective mental map. In a quieter, deeper part of the cave, away from the main fire, a different kind of story is being told. Another member of the clan, an artist, is at work. His only light comes from a small, hollowed-out stone lamp, its wick of moss sputtering in a pool of rendered animal fat, casting a weak, dancing light on the rough limestone wall. His palette is simple. He has a lump of soft red ochre for his reds and yellows, and a charred stick from the fire for his blacks. Using his fingers and a brush made from chewed twigs or animal hair, he is painting. His subject is the horse. With a few deft strokes, he captures the animal's powerful arching neck, the sturdy line of its back, the tension in its legs. This is not a decorative act. This art is functional, powerful, and deeply meaningful. It is a way of recording the day's great event. It may be a form of ritual, an act of respect for the spirit of the animal whose life now sustains the clan, a plea for its kind to be plentiful next season. For the young hunters, it is a teaching tool, a schematic of their prey that they can study and internalize. The art is a rehearsal for reality. And it is no coincidence that the great galleries of Paleolithic art in places like Lascaux and Chauvet are dominated by these images. The vast majority of the paintings depict the large, powerful, and often dangerous animals that were the focus of the hunt. Bison, aurochs, mammoths, and of course, horses. Humans, when they are depicted at all, are often just schematic stick figures, dwarfed by the magnificent beasts around them. This suggests a deep, complex, and perhaps spiritual relationship with the animals that were both their greatest challenge and their greatest source of life. The materials the artist is using are the physical link between his art and his daily life. The very same ochre he now uses for paint is the same substance you smeared on your skin this morning for protection. The charcoal is from the same fire that cooked your meal. Archaeologists find these pigments, along with the stone pallets and grinding stones used to prepare them, right within the habitation sites of your people. They find the stone lamps that lit the darkness. The evidence is clear. The creation of this sublime art was not the work of a separate, priestly class, but was deeply integrated into the rephriek of your everyday existence. The storytelling and the painting are not happening in silence. They are accompanied by the gentle, rhythmic soundtrack of the evening's continued work. It is the sound of security. From one side of the fire comes the steady, hypnotic scrape. Scrape. Scrape of a flint tool on the fresh horsehide as a woman begins the long process of turning it into leather. From another corner comes the sharp, percussive clack, clack of a stone on stone, as a man, his belly full and his mind at ease, begins to knap a new tool for tomorrow's needs. These are the sounds of a productive, secure household, a clan preparing for the future. As the hunter's voice rises and falls, it echoes slightly in the chamber. This simple physical property of the cave is a clue to another layer of meaning. Researchers who have studied the acoustics of the great painted caves have made a remarkable discovery. The most elaborately decorated chambers and panels are often located in the spots with the most unusual and powerful acoustic resonance. This has led to a fascinating theory that sound was a critical component of the art. The paintings may have been the backdrop for rituals that involved chanting, singing, or storytelling, the sounds magnified and transformed by the cave itself into something otherworldly and powerful. Yet, for all that you know, the ultimate meaning of the art remains a profound mystery, perhaps the greatest mystery of the ancient human mind. What does this image of a horse, taking shape now on your wall, truly mean? Scholars of the future will debate this endlessly. Is it hunting magic, a way of capturing the animal's spirit to ensure a successful kill? Is it a historical record, a visual chronicle of the clan's greatest triumphs? Is it a depiction of a shaman's trance vision, a glimpse into a spirit world that underlies the physical one? Or is it possible that it is simply art for art's sake, an expression of a timeless human need to capture the beauty and power of the world? Every theory has its passionate advocates, but as the artist adds the final black line of the horse's mane, its meaning for you, right now, is simple. It is the story of your day. It is the image of your survival. The stories have been told, the painting on the wall is complete, and a deep quiet has finally begun to settle over the camp. The great roaring fire has been allowed to burn down, its hungry flames giving way to a deep, radiant bed of glowing orange and red coals that provides a steady, gentle heat. The children, exhausted from their day of learning and chores, are already curled up in the sleeping furs, their bellies full. The adults are beginning to drift towards their own sleeping spots, the day's immense labor finally catching up with them. Before you settle down completely, you find yourself wanting one last taste to top off the evening. You are not hungry, not in the slightest, but the desire for a final savory morsel is strong. You walk over to the smoking rack, where the thin strips of horse meat have been hanging for hours. The ones on the edge, closest to the heat, are already becoming tough and dry. You take one. It's warm, intensely smoky, and salty from the blood. It's as tough as leather, and eating it requires a prolonged, powerful effort from your jaw. But the reward is a slow release of concentrated, savory flavor. It's a satisfying, final punctuation mark on the day's feast, a taste of the food that will sustain you on the journeys of the days to come. As you chew on the tough jerky, you notice one of the other women is also chewing, but she is not eating. She has a long, pale strip of sinew in her mouth, which she is working methodically from side to side. She is not chewing for nutrition, but for production. This is a form of low-effort, passive processing. Her saliva, combined with the gentle mechanical action of her chewing, is slowly softening the incredibly tough connective tissue, making it pliable and easy to split into the fine, strong threads she will need tomorrow to sew a patch onto a torn hide. It is a perfect example of your people's ethos. Even in moments of rest, there is always a small, useful task that can be done. Your mouth itself can be a tool. This use of the mouth as a third hand is a behavior that leaves a clear record for scientists to discover. The wear patterns found on the front teeth of many ancient humans, and especially your Neanderthal cousins, are often dramatic. They show deep parallel scratches and a kind of rounded, polished wear on the incisors that could not have come from eating food. This is the telltale signature of a person who habitually gripped materials, like a hide, a piece of cordage, or a plant stem, with their front teeth while they worked on it with a stone tool held in their hands. Your teeth are not just for eating. They are a built-in vice. Before you finally turn in, you might reach for one last, peculiar kind of snack. You take a small black lump of that versatile birch bark tar and pop it in your mouth. As it warms, it softens into a dense, chewy gum. The taste is not pleasant. It's pungent and resinous. But you chew it out of habit. It helps to clean your teeth of any lingering food particles. And as you know from experience, its antiseptic properties can soothe an aching tooth or a sore spot on your gums. It is your multi-tool, and right now, it is your after-dinner chewing gum. Finally, you move to your personal sleeping area. Before you lie down, you perform one last crucial ritual. You pick up your personal tools, the flint flake that has served you so well all day, and your sturdy hand axe. You run your thumb carefully alongside their edges, checking for any new nicks or dull spots that will need to be addressed in the morning. You ensure they are clean and ready for immediate use. You then lay them down on the ground right beside your sleeping mat, within easy reach. The cycle of preparation never truly ends. The day's work closes with a preparation for the dawn. As you look around the quiet, fire-lit shelter at your sleeping children, you are seeing the reason for the immense complexity of your lives. Humans have an exceptionally long period of childhood and dependency compared to other primates. A young ape is self-sufficient within a few years. Your children will be dependent on the clan for more than a decade. This long childhood is not a biological flaw. It is a strategic necessity. It is the time they need to download the vast and complex cultural software required to survive. How to read the green language of plants, how to track an animal, how to turn a rock into a life-saving tool, how to tell a story, and how to live as part of a group. All the knowledge that was on display today cannot be inherited. It must be taught and learned over many years. As the day's last tasks are completed and the camp settles into a deep quiet, a fundamental question about the nature of your life arises, one that will be debated for millennia. How much downtime did you really have? Was your life a constant, brutal, edge-of-starvation struggle, where every waking moment was consumed by a desperate search for the next meal? Or did an efficient and successful subsistence strategy, like the one you executed so perfectly today, actually allow for a significant amount of leisure time? This entire evening, the storytelling, the art, the relaxed communal work, the quiet moments of reflection, suggests that life was not an endless, frantic scramble. It suggests there was time. Time to think, time to innovate, time to create art, and time to simply be together, reinforcing the social bonds that made everything else possible. Perhaps the greatest prize from a successful hunt was not just the meat, but the gift of time itself. Your personal tools are ready for the morning, and the last of the birch tar's resinous taste has faded from your mouth. The day is finally, truly over. A collective, unspoken agreement seems to move through the clan as, one by one, they begin the final preparations for sleep. The world outside the shelter is now a realm of absolute blackness, a cold, indifferent space filled with unseen dangers and the ancient fears of the night. Here, inside, is the small, warm bubble of human life, and it must be carefully secured. The first and most important task is managing the fire. The huge, roaring bonfire that cooked the feast and provided the evening's entertainment has served its purpose. To keep it blazing at that intensity all night would consume a wasteful and potentially irreplaceable amount of firewood. The old woman and one of the hunters begin to bank the fire for the long hours until dawn. They use long sticks to push the largest, partially burnt logs into the center of the hearth, piling the hot coals and ash around their base. This creates a deep, insulated bed of mess that will smolder with a steady, intense heat for many hours. A thermal core that will continue to radiate warmth long after the flames have died. Near the mouth of the cave, however, they maintain a separate, smaller fire. This is the watchfire, a more controlled and efficient blaze, just large enough to provide a pool of light at the entrance and to be fed with a single log at a time. With the fire secured, the night watch is set. One of the hunters, the younger one, takes the first shift. He will not sleep for the next few hours. He settles himself on a smooth stone near the entrance, his back to the cave wall, his spear resting within easy reach. His job is not to sleep, but to listen. His ears, already highly attuned to the sounds of the wild, will now become the ears of the entire clan. He will listen for the telltale pad of a predator's paws, the snap of a twig that is out of place, the low cough of a cave lion. He is the guardian, the living security system on which everyone's life depends. This is the fundamental reason you live together. Group living and cooperation are not just for hunting and foraging more efficiently. At its core, it is a strategy for collective defense. A single human sleeping alone in this landscape is a fragile, vulnerable thing, an easy meal for any number of nocturnal hunters. But a group of humans, armed, intelligent, and protected by a fire and a vigilant watchkeeper, is a fortress. The safety of the pack is the ultimate strength, and the night is when that strength is needed most. Before he settles completely into his watch, the hunter performs one last task. He gathers an armful of the driest, most brittle leaves and twigs he can find, and carefully scatters them in a wide, unavoidable arc on the ground just outside the shelter's entrance. It is a simple, ingenious, and incredibly effective burglar alarm. No creature, no matter how stealthy, will be able to cross that patch of dry debris without creating a loud, crackling rustle that would instantly awaken the watchman and the rest of the camp. You watch these preparations from your own sleeping spot, the one you rose from this morning. You take a moment to prepare your bed, fluffing up the compacted layers of grass and insect-repelling leaves, restoring some of their loft and comfort. You look over at one of the clan's elders, a man with a badly healed leg, who walks with a permanent, painful-looking limp. He could never have participated in today's hunt, or even kept up with the foraging party. Yet he is here, his belly as full as anyone else's. He is living proof of your society's deepest strength. The fossil record is filled with individuals like him. Scientists have found the skeletons of ancient people who suffered debilitating injuries, withered arms, crippling fractures, total tooth loss. and yet survived for years, sometimes decades afterward. This is powerful, direct scientific evidence for the existence of altruistic care. These individuals were being fed, protected, and cared for by their group. Your clan is not just a hunting party, it is a family, a safety net that catches those who fall. You look around at the sleeping forms huddled throughout the shelter. How many of you are there? This simple question of numbers is a puzzle that fascinates the archaeologists and geneticists of the future. How large was a typical Paleolithic band? The evidence is pieced together from different clues: the size of the shelters themselves, the amount of resources available in a given territory, and complex models of population genetics. The consensus often settles on a number around 25, a small, mobile, and intimate group of several related families. But other evidence suggests that, at certain times of the year, or in particularly rich environments, these small bands could come together to form larger clans of 100 or more. The true answer is likely that your social world was fluid, expanding and contracting with the seasons and the opportunities the land provided. Finally, you lie down, pulling a heavy, magnificent bear skin over you. Its weight is a profound comfort, a shield against the night's chill. You are surrounded by your family. The fire is banked. The watch is set. The alarms are in place. You are as safe as it is possible to be in this world. You close your eyes and surrender to the deep, dreamless sleep of the truly exhausted and the truly secure. You are lying in the deep, comfortable dark of the shelter, a willing captive under the immense weight of the bearskin. The warmth from the banked coals of the great fire washes over your face, a gentle, radiant heat that soothes your tired muscles. You are not cold. You are not hungry. You are not afraid. You are simply content. You can hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of your family around you, a soundscape of pure security. Your body, having carried its burdens and eaten its fill, feels heavy and anchored to the earth. Your mind, which has been running at a state of high alert for the entire day, finally begins to let go. You drift, floating in the warm, quiet space between waking and sleeping. And then you fall into the deep, dark river of the night. Your mind does not simply shut down. It begins its own form of work, a second, internal harvest of the day's events. Your dreams are not surreal flights of fancy. They are a vivid, chaotic, and profoundly practical replay of your waking hours. The day's experiences, stored in the temporary file of your short-term memory, are now being processed, sorted, and filed away for long-term storage. You are running again, your feet pounding the earth, but you feel no exhaustion. You see the wild, panicked eye of the horse, a detail you were too consumed by adrenaline to notice at the time. The image is burned into your memory. You are crouched in the grass again, and you see the 3-lobed leaves of the vine that led you to the tubers, and the image is now locked in place, a permanent part of your mental map of this landscape. You feel the satisfying clack of the hammerstone as it strikes the flint, and the memory of that successful strike reinforces the muscle memory in your hand and arm. This is not just random noise. This is your brain's essential nightly ritual of learning and consolidation. Sleep is a vital cognitive function, and for you, it is as crucial as any stone tool. It is how you master the immense, complex library of information you need to survive. It is how experience becomes knowledge. But the dreamscape is not always a peaceful classroom. The night is full of sounds, and your sleeping mind is still listening. The distant, whooping cry of a hyena, a sound that the watchman hears and dismisses, penetrates the veil of your sleep. Your dream shifts instantly. Suddenly, you are the one being hunted. You are running through a dark, tangled forest, a shadowy form with glowing eyes crashing through the undergrowth behind you. Your heart hammers in your chest, your lungs burn. You feel the hot breath of the predator on your neck. It is a dream of pure primal terror. But even this has a purpose. This is not a psychological quirk. It is an evolutionary inheritance, a threat rehearsal system honed over millions of years of being both predator and prey. Your mind is practicing for disaster, keeping your fear responses sharp and your escape instincts honed, even in the safety of sleep. While we can never know for certain what you dreamed, modern science gives us a powerful clue to the process unfolding in your sleeping brain. Neuroscientists have identified a specific network in the brain called the default mode network. This network is most active when the mind is at rest, daydreaming, reflecting, and, it is believed, dreaming. Its primary functions are to process past events, integrating them into our understanding of the world, and to simulate future scenarios, allowing us to plan and prepare. The hardware that allows a modern human to replay a conversation from yesterday or imagine what they'll have for lunch tomorrow is the same hardware that is allowing your dreaming mind to replay the hunt and rehearse your escape from a predator. It is the brain's internal time machine. Your dreams are not just a product of your own experiences either. They are seeded by the culture you inhabit. The story the hunter told around the fire tonight has colored your perceptions. The dream horse you see is not just any horse. It is the magnificent, heroic horse from his story. The shadow that chases you in your nightmare might take the form of the shape-shifting monster from a tale the old woman tells the children to keep them away from the dark woods. Your subconscious mind is a canvas, and the stories of your clan are the paint. This leads to the deepest and most unanswerable question. What did you believe this dream world to be? This is a question that archaeology cannot answer, and is the subject of much speculation. Was it simply meaningless noise? The mental steam your brain let off while it did its nightly housekeeping? Or did you perceive it as a place, a separate but equally real reality? Was the dream world a sacred space where you could travel, untethered from your physical body? Was it a place where you could meet and communicate with the spirits of the animals you hunted, like the horse, to ask for its forgiveness and its blessing? Was it a place where you could receive wisdom from the spirits of your ancestors? Did the shaman of your clan learn to navigate this world, to bring back knowledge and healing from the other side? We can never know for sure. But looking at the beliefs of many later, and even modern, hunter-gatherer cultures, it seems likely that the dream world was not seen as a fiction, but as a fundamental part of a much larger and much more mysterious reality. In the depths of your sleep, you are not just resting. You are learning. You are practicing. And you may even be communing with the spirits of your world. You are deep asleep, adrift in the strange landscapes of your dreaming mind. But while your consciousness is traveling, your physical body is engaged in one of the most important and restorative processes of the day. The great feast is over, and now the long fast of the night begins. Your internal factory, having finished the hard work of breaking down the food, is now in the business of distribution and storage. A river of energy, drawn from the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates of the meal, is flowing through your bloodstream. A portion of this energy is being sent to your muscles, where it is converted into glycogen, refilling the fuel tanks that were emptied during the long day of walking and the explosive effort of the hunt. The rest, the great surplus from your celebratory gorge, is being efficiently and expertly converted into body fat, a long-term energy reserve stored away for the lean days that will inevitably follow. The proteins are being used as building blocks, sent to repair the thousands of microscopic tears in your muscle fibers and to mend the wear and tear on your body. You are not just resting, you are rebuilding. You are turning the body of the horse into the strength of your own. Your body is not just built for feasting, it is exquisitely designed for fasting. This nightly period without food is not a state of deprivation. It is a normal, healthy, and necessary part of your metabolic rhythm. As the last of the energy from your meal is processed, your body makes a seamless and effortless switch. It begins to draw its power not from the food in your gut, but from the fat you have stored on your body. This metabolic flexibility is your ultimate key to survival in an unpredictable world. It is the physiological foundation of the feast and famine cycle that governs your life. Your sleep itself is of a quality and depth that is almost unimaginable to a person of the modern world. Your sleep-wake cycle is not governed by clocks or schedules, but by the most powerful and ancient rhythm of all, the rising and setting of the sun. As darkness fell, your brain was flooded with the hormone melatonin, a chemical signal to prepare for sleep. In the absence of any artificial blue light from screens or bulbs to disrupt this process, your slumber is profoundly deep and restorative. But it may not be a single, unbroken block. The modern idea of a solid, consolidated 8-hour sleep may be a relatively recent invention, a product of the Industrial Revolution and the artificial lighting that came with it. Many historical records, from ancient texts to early modern diaries, describe a different pattern of sleep, one that may have been your norm. It is a segmented sleep. You might sleep for a few hours in the first part of the night, and then, around midnight, you naturally drift into a state of quiet wakefulness. This is not the anxious, frustrating state of modern insomnia. It is a calm, peaceful, and productive period of consciousness, a gentle limbo between the dream world and the waking one. During this time, you might simply lie in the darkness, contemplating your thoughts. It might be a time for quiet intimacy with your partner, or you might get up, add a log to the watchfire, and have a quiet conversation with the person on watch. This period, sometimes called the watch, or dorve, was not seen as a disruption, but as a normal and valuable part of the night. After an hour or two, you would simply lie down again and drift back into a second sleep that would last until dawn. Your body's adaptation to these daily cycles of feasting and fasting is something that future scientists will rediscover and study with great interest. Modern studies on intermittent fasting will reveal that deliberately creating periods without food can trigger a host of powerful health benefits. It can activate processes of cellular repair and cleanup, a kind of internal housekeeping called autophagy. It can improve insulin sensitivity and reduce inflammation. These studies will suggest that the human body is not just well adapted to the intermittent food availability you experience, it may actually function at its best under these conditions. Your daily routine is, in effect, a health regimen that your descendants will one day pay to emulate. As the night reaches its deepest point, the banked fire has burned down to a bed of dimly glowing embers. A profound cold begins to seep back into the rock shelter. You and your clan are huddled together, a mass of sleeping bodies under a pile of thick furs, sharing warmth. But is this enough? How did your people truly stay warm through a long, sub-zero glacial night? This is a subject of intense scholarly debate. Was huddling together sufficient? The combined body heat of 25 people in a confined space is considerable. Or did you have more sophisticated strategies? Perhaps your shelters were more cleverly insulated with hides and packed moss than the archaeological record shows. Or perhaps you possessed a physiological adaptation that modern humans have lost. It's possible that your bodies had a greater ability to generate heat by burning brown adipose tissue, or even a form of shallow hibernation, and to slightly lower your core body temperature and metabolic rate during the coldest part of the night to conserve precious energy. The answer is lost to the cold of the past. But as you lie in the darkness, your body performing its ancient restorative miracles, you are warm enough. You are in your second sleep now, a deep and dreamless calm before the dawn. The great cycle of the day is almost complete. A subtle shift in the quality of the darkness is the first sign that the night is ending. The absolute, impenetrable black at the mouth of the rock shelter begins to soften, thinning to a deep, washed-out charcoal gray. The air takes on the profound, biting cold that comes only in the hour before the dawn. The night watchman, seeing this faint change, adds one last log to the fire. Its crackle and pop a lonely sound in the deep quiet. The deepest part of the night is over. A new day is waiting. In the depths of your sleep, your body has completed its work. The great feast has been digested, the energy stored, the tissues repaired. And now, deep in your gut, a familiar sensation begins to stir once more. It is not the sharp, painful hunger of yesterday morning. It is a gentle, hollow echo, a quiet reminder from your ancient biology that the great engine of life requires constant fuel. The long fast of the night is nearing its end, and the biological imperative that has driven your species for millions of years is slowly, quietly reawakening. The great, unending cycle is about to begin again. Your sleeping mind, turning in the last of its dreams, is already focused on tomorrow's food. You see an image of the racks of smoked meat, hanging like dark, leathery promises in the firelight. You feel the profound security of that preserved surplus. But you also feel the knowledge that it will not last forever. The hunt and the gathering are not single events, but a constant, rhythmic process. The quest for food is the frame upon which your entire life is built. It is the first thought of the morning and the last thought of the night. It is the reason for your tools, your society, your art, and your stories. The incredible variety of foods you consumed in this single successful day, the rich meat and fat from the horse, the starchy energy of the tubers, the vitamins from the berries and greens, the easy protein of the grubs and snails, the flash of a fish in the river, is a testament to the single greatest strength of your species. The success of Homo sapiens is, above all, a story of dietary flexibility. You are the ultimate omnivore, the supreme opportunist. Your ability to exploit a huge range of food sources in every conceivable environment, from the frozen mammoths of the north to the coastal shellfish of the south, is precisely what allowed you to spread from your African homeland and colonize every corner of the planet. The evidence for this remarkable adaptability is written in the very blueprint of your descendants. Genetic analysis of modern human populations will reveal countless examples of recent, rapid evolution in response to changing diets. The most famous is the emergence of lactase persistence, the ability of adults to digest the sugars in milk. This trait only became common in certain populations after the domestication of cattle, a clear example of how our genes can change to match our menu. The story of what your people ate and will eat is a story that is told in your DNA. As the first stirrings of hunger return, you have no concept of a schedule. The idea of breakfast, lunch, and dinner does not exist. The notion of a rigid 3 meals a day structure is a very recent cultural invention, a product of the agricultural calendars and industrial work schedules of a far distant future. For almost all of human history, your eating pattern was fluid and organic. You ate when there was a successful hunt. You ate when a berry patch was discovered. You ate when the opportunity arose, not when a clock told you to. And so, as we leave you on the cusp of this new dawn, we are left with the great, lingering question of your legacy. The entire day you have just lived, the wild, unprocessed, and incredibly diverse diet you have consumed is the very diet that sculpted the human body and brain. This raises the central and deeply personal question of the modern field of evolutionary medicine. How much of our descendants' chronic health problems, the epidemics of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease, are diseases of mismatch? Are these ailments caused by the profound and sudden friction of feeding your ancient Paleolithic body a modern, agricultural, and industrial diet that it is not, and has never been, evolved to handle? The story of your day is not just a glimpse into the past. It is a reflection on the present, a reminder of a world our bodies still remember. But now, the time for questions is over. The first pale light of the new day is just beginning to touch the entrance of your shelter, and you are sleeping peacefully, your breathing deep and even. The story of this one day, this single rotation of the earth 40,000 years ago, is complete. You have woken in cold and hunger, and you have triumphed through cooperation, knowledge, and courage. You have filled your belly, secured your family, and told your stories. Now there is only the deep and well-earned peace of the coming dawn. So let the image of the warm, fire-lit shelter fade gently from your mind. Feel the reassuring weight of your own blanket, the softness of your own pillow. The hunt is over. The night's watch has ended. Let the slow, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping clan become the sound of your own breath as you drift deeper now into your own comfortable and peaceful sleep. All is well. The morning is a long way off, and you are safe.